Mark in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday, and welcome to the Brick Something News. I am joined today by Photo Dave of Toypixx. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Brick. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Usually there's a little bit of those Sunday, like, oh no, I'm dreading the weekend, and that's what this is for. This is like, nope, pause on that. Let's just take an hour and a half or so just to hang out with a buddy and talk toys, talk nerdy things. So life is good. Can't complain.
I like it.
Thank you so much for agreeing to jump on, man. I have been, as you know, I've been hopping on your streams. Usually you do them a little bit earlier for the West Coast. And so it works out perfectly. Like usually I'm like the students are off on their day. And then it's like, okay, I'll turn it on if I'm in the classroom kind of working on something, or if I'm heading home and, chat. And it's cool. So if folks aren't familiar with Toypixx, definitely go check that out. We'll talk about the channel and what you all do towards the end for sure. Cool. But it'll be helpful to give folks a sense of kind of how you do toys, if that makes sense. I know you've got a particular lens, if you will, that you move through the toy world through.
Come on, man. I'm the pun guy. What are you doing?
Yeah. So yeah. Why don't you share with folks for those unfamiliar?
Okay. Well, really, I mean, we all collect this stuff because we dig a lot of the characters and everything else. So one of the things that I really had to kind of niche it down a little for myself, otherwise life would just be overwhelmed with these tiny pieces of plastic. So I decided I really wanted to focus on ones I could move around really well and take pictures of, things that looked awesome. And so, I gravitate towards stuff like that. So the one line that people would be stunned to hear I almost never touch is Marvel Legends, and that's just because of the waist cut. The waist cut drives me crazy because I can't always take it at the exact angle I want to take it at because of the limited posing. So, but aside from that, I'm pretty good with this. And so many companies are making so many figures that you can move in all kinds of crazy ways that it's almost not missed. I'd like a lot more of those characters. Yeah. But there's so much good stuff out there.
So I know that you lean in. I know, but like, where do you get your Marvel fix then? So what's your brand of choice to get that Marvel fix?
Marvel and DC, I would go Mafex. Yes. And I'm hoping I want to branch a little more out. I would love to just have all the Mafex because I'm sick in the head like that. So getting some Star Wars, getting, RoboCop, jumping into movies. I don't usually get movie characters. I'm just, I like more classic, the timeless looks rather than the contemporary stuff. Okay. But I can see me jumping in on that stuff too. But Mafex has largely been a big one. Action Force moves really well and can give you that troop builder stuff for 1/12 scale. And I've been into NECA quite a bit, at least as far as turtles, and they don't move insanely well. It's just they look so good and they're painted so well,
Right.
Those have been kind of the big ones that I've been after. Of course, Jada as well, but Jada tends to release their stuff a little more sporadically.
So with the NECA, I'm curious, is it strictly turtles, or are you looking at other stuff too? Mainly turtles?
Oh, I'm definitely looking at other stuff. For the first time, for everybody that has seen my stuff and knows that I'm a bad nerd, or that I say that quite a bit, for the first time this past Friday night, I saw Alien.
Yeah, that's right.
I need a xenomorph now. And NECA's the only one's making a xenomorph,
That's right. That came up on your show. I don't know if it was last week when people were talking about Alien Romulus, and and you said I haven't seen. It was Alien, and there was something else you said, and I was like, "Oh no, Dave, what do we?"
Dude, there is so much. I thought about maybe I need to watch a lot of these older things and just talk about it, you know?
It doesn't mean you're a bad
I
nerd.
love Alien, so I would have no problem going back and
Sure,
saying, okay,
sure.
if I can carve out a couple hours, let's catch up on some of these classics.
No, it probably means that you're a well-rounded human being and you're looking at other things in life. But no, there's so much, especially nowadays, right? I think you said, I've heard you say I'm a bad nerd when on your streams when folks are talking about like anime or manga and stuff. But the reality is, especially because of the internet, like we are exposed to so much and all that good stuff, the good like vintage nostalgia from the 70s and 80s. Has become no longer less like fringe sort of nerd culture and has become front and center pop culture, right? Has become, like we were just saying before this, like what the pillars right now of sort of like Hollywood are what Marvel, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and arguably Transformers, right? And it's like, and of course there have been newer things like Harry Potter, but it's like that stuff is front and center. A lot of them are being show run or directed or written by people like you and me, roughly our age, who like grew up on the stuff. So you've got all that plus everything coming out of Japan, stuff coming out of China, like everywhere, video games, World of Warcraft, brand new IP like Mythic Legions, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, all of which we're going to cover today. Actually, maybe no AWOC. Talk too much about AWOC. So,
hey man, I don't mind talking AWOC. That's one of those lines that I'm scared to jump into, you know?
Oh, that's right. You still haven't gotten any, right?
I still haven't gotten any of those. Yeah, there's too much I haven't tried out, but I know that when I test drive them, because no one has said anything bad about those.
Sure.
So I know I'm going to get one and I'm going to be like, oh crap, I need them all now. You know?
I will personally enable you. You need to see that, especially if you're concerned about the way things move. For science, you must.
Right. I'm in.
Okay, let's go ahead and say hello to folks. We've got Ray. What's going on, Ray? Boo. Star, hello. Yeah, you know what? Just be gentle with that like, please. No hitting. We don't need to condone violence. The Collecting Brothers, John, what's going on? Great to see you. We've got Gatey's Toys, Andrew. Yes. There's like a whole like series of Sunday Toy Tube. It's wild, including this guy who just finished his show, and then so this is my infamous AWOC partner in crime, and we talk way too much about AWOC. And he was just talking about Kickstarters and how like there's just a ton. So
I know.
And Adam, you'd win that bet. Absolutely. Oz is here. What's going on? Great to see you, Oz Hole. Let's see. Justin, yes, a purveyor of art, appreciator of art like myself, the art of toys. Let's see. Dorlaxon, hello to you. Great to see you, Neil. Are you familiar with that icon by any chance? It's okay. Don't worry. You're not a bad nerd.
Bad nerd. No, I got nothing.
No, you're not. Okay. It's from our childhood. Maybe. Anyways, I was pretty young, but so I started the show with like an MTV kind of reference. And on that, there was this British show called The Young Ones featuring that character right here. It was a punk, a hippie, sort of like, yeah. Anyway, it was, sorry, I digress.
No, you're good.
Hello. I got to do a show about the young ones. The young ones. Mythic Dolphin. How are you doing, Tiffany? Great to see you. Aaron Payne's Toy Samples is here. Red XO Mac. Hello. Sorry, I didn't mean to mess with you. I am, in fact, having a stream today. That was earlier. Thanos, late to the party, man. You are core to the party. Thanos will be helping as usual. With dropping links in the chat for folks.
Appreciate it.
Nolan is here. Hello, Nolan. Yeah, I think I might be contractually obligated to talk about AWOC. I've kind of thrown the name in there a couple of times. And so, yes. All right. So thank you to everybody who's joining us. Thank you to everybody in advance who will be checking out the replay. I've seen you all there. Thank you to E. McNeil who just jumped on. Hello, sir. Okay, this is how it works. It's called the N.E.W.S, but it's actually this like really wonky acronym, which my people from the Philippines Love wonky acronyms. Needless ephemera we saw, which is like a fancy word for saying like, hey, we just saw a bunch of random crap and we want to talk.
I'm good with it.
There is a QR code for folks, especially on the replay. If you're live, the chats are going to, the links to what we're talking about will be dropped into the live chat. And then after that, in the replay, there will be that QR code over there, as well as the URL that's going to pop up here at the bottom over there, bit.ly/brick something news, capital B, capital S, capital news, because it's BS news. And you can go and check out all of everything that we're looking, because that's how I roll, Dave. Like, I'm a visual person, so it's like slides are helpful, but then I also really want people to go to the, whether it's Kickstarter or artists or customizers Instagram page, or like, go check it out, give them a follow, give them a like, all of those things. So,
oh yeah.
So that's the deal. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's see. I always like, it's always a thing. We do this and then we share something. What am I trying to share? I think I'm trying to share this. No, that was weird. And there was an echo. Oh, duh. Is it already there? Maybe it's already there. Okay, here we go. No, it's not there. Hi, folks. This is a total, see it, pro deal. Share screen, window, talk through it. Here you go. All right.
All right, there we go. I was afraid I was going to have to juggle, and I can't juggle, so we were host.
No juggling. Just smile and look pretty for the camera. Okay, let's start off with the stuff we've seen. This is the scene. So there's a big, buff, giant, tattooed, Celt-looking dude with red dreadlocks. What is this? So I know you're familiar with the Brutal Realm Kickstarter. I feel like last week was like all of us in the chat saying, hey, in your chat, hey, Dave, Brutal Realm, like Brutal Realm. And so
it's fantastic. I'm so stoked that these guys got funded. I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yes, you know what? Yes, I know the numbers were there. The story, so Big Bad Toy Store, as they are wont to do, have thrown in to support these indie toy lines on their crowdfunding efforts. And so they were taking pre-orders, and then, sort of the agreement to be, we'll take the pre-orders and then we will take the orders and whatever, all of it or some portion of it, because I don't really know what the terms are.
Right.
We will put into a pledge. Right. And so they came in like big time with 2 huge sort of pledges. Right. So clearly, like, they're doing pretty well on their end with pre-orders, which is great. So I've loved this line since I started seeing some of the concept art. And I'm really glad that like the possibility of these figures having like, there was that, I get it. People were like, I don't think it's going to make it. So I'm glad that that's done. Like, the figures are getting made. Yeah. Now it's a matter of which additional figures are going to be unlocked. So fun. Along the way, they created a brand new character. So this was Killian as a way to sort of like sweeten the pot and try and get maybe more backers in early.
Right.
They created this whole new thing that wasn't there at the beginning, wasn't planned. I know for a fact it didn't exist. And it was based on one of their sort of army builder sculpts. They took feedback from folks who were looking at these and were like, hey, can you make like a Celtic kind of warrior based on that? And they're like, yeah, sure. They got their artist. And that's who this is, Killian the Red. And you can see like they, you're familiar with it. It's like big, gigantic buff dudes. Fun fact. They have shared that like they look at the Hercules Lou Ferrigno movie. I don't know if you remember that from back in the day. Okay. Lou Ferrigno, an incredible Hulk guy.
Lou Ferrigno.
So in his like peak, he was gigantic. So they modeled the pecs and sort of upper shoulders on an image of him. So like it's really big, beefy guys. They created this guy. And I think it's a really cool addition. Here it is, sort of prototyped, right? And you saw sort of the colorway.
Yeah.
And it's, and you're talking about movement. These things move really well. Adam, who was highly articulated, was able to, and a bunch of people were able to handle them during, what is it, Joe Fest recently. And there's this common refrain that people are like, wow, one wouldn't assume that such a big, bulky figure would move so well.
Mhm.
And so, you know, you've got your waist, not just a swivel, but like on a ball joint so that you can get it at different angles. I know.
Perfect.
I saw the reaction. But yeah, any thoughts on this character in particular, or anything like you're wondering about movement?
You know, I'm not really like that one. Actually, I'm quite a bit Irish, so I'm looking at this now, going, But honestly, for whatever reason, like we were talking a little bit about the stuff we grew up on, Motu, I had a bunch of it. It didn't stick with me. I'm not a sword and sorcery guy necessarily, so this kind of stuff doesn't appeal to me like it does a lot of others.
Yep.
But the fact that we were looking on one of my live streams, we were checking out like the articulation breakdown. And as I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, ball peg waist. Oh, look at all that movement at the diaphragm, you know, all that stuff.
All of this
so
stuff
I
right
would
here.
definitely be interested in checking one of these out at least.
So yeah, that's great. And you know, there are options. So there's Killian the Red, which they added, but on top of that, as folks know, there's a ton of different characters. This is 188, 572. Ooh, look at that. So once this gets to 190, I believe, I've sort of lost track of the tiers, but it's going to unlock another tier. And I want to say it's the main villain.
Well, Jack, you know what to do.
Yeah. So Ray is asking which figures have been unlocked so far. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's run through that. So obviously they started with Ogun. I'm just going to skip to the actual characters. Killian the Red, they introduced and unlocked automatically. So they said, yep, right away, you're going to have access to this character. Again, this didn't exist before they threw him in, again, to kind of sweeten the pot, if you will. Cronin, the future barbarian king, was in there initially. That was part of the initial offering. And then the sort of original third named character was Crowman, the beguiled barbarian. I know you're a comics guy, but like, man, some of this is just like, it channels like Art Adams back in the day, like some of his drawings of Colossus. I was just like, oh, it hits that sweet spot. So yeah, here you go. This guy who's got like he's got a demon essentially inside him that can manifest.
Is this a new image? Like, I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when you last looked at it, but I believe this may have not been when you were scrolling through stuff. If it was there last week, I just don't remember you scrolling through everything last week.
Right. No, that's sweet what they did with his chest, like the tattoo looking deal. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love the skull mask, of course.
So you check out the poses, man. Oh God, if more of my figures could kind of hit that, you know, and I know people, we talk a lot about the sort of like dual holding kind of thing, but that's one thing to hold it in front of you.
Right.
It's another thing to swing it over your shoulder, you know, and just, anyways. And
no, that's cool. I didn't zoom in on that like I should have. And now I'm looking at it going, crap, Rick. I'm going to be on the Kickstarter when we're done.
Well, you know, and so there were the three named characters, and then that were part of the initial offering, Ray, if you're keeping track. And then they offered three sort of like builder figures. This is that sculpt where obviously Killian the Red came from. So and they're each sort of like of different sort of like, if we're using the earth-bound terminology for human beings, this is essentially like the European barbarian style. This is the African barbarian style. And this is to the right here. This is sort of the American of the Americas, if you will.
Right.
I think they name him specifically Native American, but you know, folks have asked like, someone's like, where's the Aztec warrior? I was like, well, you know, like they're of Mesoamerica. But that said, these are them. And like, they didn't even, you know, it's like one thing to be like, we've got army builders, but look at these faces and the sculpts. So it's like the love that's in these supposed like unnamed characters is a trip to me. And it's great. Right. So
they could do another wave of army builders and just give them different heads, you know?
You know what's next? Let me get to it. Women army builders. That is what's next. Yeah. Okay. So those are them. And then I should mention price points. These are $30 for the army builders and $36 for the name characters. And then even more of a break depending on the sort of like package you get in on. I just think they're really cool. And again, there's so much here that you don't, get one to check it out for science, or to, to do your Vonner, David Vonner of Marvel Legends fame, as folks know from Toy Biz, and he worked with Mattel and other folks. He was talking about like, even if you're just going to get these sort of like as beginnings for customs, you could do like, he was mentioning like football players and wrestlers and you know what I mean? Oh God, the poses on this thing. Okay,
that looks like the bodybuilder style thing.
Yeah, totally. So I can't do it. It's embarrassing. But Ray, to answer Ray's question, so we see the different characters. Man, great stuff. And then yes, the accessory packs, $5 each, by the way. Come on now. So you can get like axes in this in different colors. There's like a bronze, silver, gold, and one more, I think black. Okay, so now we get to the tiers. So we've zoomed past Chief Motto, named character. So he's been unlocked and available now. Oh, look at that. Sorry, there you go. You can kind of see it rendered up. I love all the sort of markings on his body.
Oh, same here.
Wakinian sort of thunder god or character type thing. Then we've got the Great Khan, who's also been unlocked at 160. So this is available now with his fully articulated bow, by the way. Or actually, I'm mixing that up. I heard John from Collecting Brothers say that. And then I wondered, because I don't remember hearing Realm Toys say that, or if that was mixed up with maybe Awok's bird, but maybe both. So yeah, this is more like, this is essentially like the Asian belt modeled after the Khan of like Mongol or China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just like love it.
No,
much.
You're good, man. This is me too. Like I'm just looking at these with a grin on my face the whole time.
Love it.
Don't mix this with your other stuff. He'll just kill them all.
You can see the articulation too going on here. To continue on Ray's question, so they've also unlocked the Alchemy. I say we, because if you've been backing, we are essentially investors in this line, making this line happen. And we have thrown our money to support and unlock the Alchemy, which apparently will not only come, so it will come with one owl. So here's this character, kind of a Norse inspired figure. And here's the owls.
When I was going through doing my scrolling, I was like, okay, this guy's awesome.
I remember you saying that. Yeah. Potentially going to make like a 3-pack of owls for those who want it, because people ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's another one at 185, which is now unlocked. And that's Uruk, who's meant to sort of, the Sumerian. This is one of those, in addition to Ogun from the African, I'm blanking right now, where he was inspired by, and Chief Motto and the Khan character. Like I'm really intrigued by like getting types of characters that we didn't. Like we're talking about the 80s. There wasn't a whole lot of diversity. There was some, depending on the line. G.I. Joe is particularly good. Mm-hmm. But this is like reaching into places like where were our like sort of ancient Sumerian, like with that kind of armor and that beard? We didn't have that, and now we can.
Even in school, I don't remember being taught about much when it comes to Sumerian areas where it comes to anything Middle East, really.
Yeah, 100%. And just like the armor from that region is fantastic. Armor, weapons, and so Ray, I think that is sort of where we're at. When we get to 205, I didn't say if, when we get to 205, we'll unlock
there it is.
the sort of like the Skeletor / Cobra Commander / Megatron of the line, if you want to use those terms, or Baron Karza if you're old like me.
Hey, I'm seeing Vader all day.
And Vader. Yeah, it's very Baron Karza and Darth Vader, I think, if you're familiar with those from Micronauts. Of course, he's got a red sword, so maybe more Vader. So this is at 205. And then, sorry, I'm kind of going fast. Hope no one's getting seasick. 220, we unlock his minions.
Okay.
His shadow army, the Shadar. And I'm hoping we can go for broke get all the way to the end, because that's when, really expensive to tool a completely different buck, and that's completely different. The women, right? The female buck or the woman, big old beefy, muscular, like people, they're referring to them as the muscle.
She-Hulk to shame.
Right. The muscle mommy, as folks have said.
Yep.
This is Athena, obviously inspired by sort of Greek mythology. And so with this, there's more to come, because they've had it prepped, but they didn't want to like inundate you more than they already did with stuff. So what would come after this would be the it's not here yet, but it would be women builders. They're talking about an Asian women builder, an American women builder, and an African women builder, if I'm remembering, would be potentially next. And then there were some other ones that they've shown on their Instagram, like teasing like tributes that might remind people of certain animal warriors from the 80s with red hair.
Nice.
Anyway, yes. So Adam, you're correct. I did talk about a Kickstarter, because this Kickstarter, by the way, again, I'm going to make people nauseous by scrolling so fast. Sorry. But we've got 6 days, 5 days?
It said 5
4 days.
yesterday.
4 days.
Okay. Because I put this in my newsletter and made sure people had the link to check it out.
So Brutal Realm, the Realm Toys folks will be doing a live stream on the last day. I'll be there with them celebrating and sort of doing the countdown. So look out for that. And let's go. We're like about to approach another one. Tell your friends. Hopefully there's even more over on BBTS, and that will kind of roll over and kick into this. For science too. Get one.
Absolutely. It's research purposes.
I kind of glossed over this, but if you wanted a $28, if you're a customizer, a $28 blank body, wanted to paint it green, paint it red, do what you will. And there's going to be 3 different, again, sort of skin tones for these as well. So
I wonder, have they talked about gray? Like, I don't do much customizing, but I know a lot of customizers enjoy gray bodies. Have they talked about doing something like that?
They have not, but I don't know. I guess they could easily. I think they were thinking is give people different skin tones they might use, but I'm not sure. It wouldn't be hard,
right.
To work with a factory to just, of course, everything has setup and whatever. But I don't know. What I'm curious about is, are they going to come with different heads as well? But anyway, it's crazy. So like we've talked now for 27 minutes about toys. We haven't mentioned Hasbro, Mattel, Marvel, Star Wars, right? So like we started talking about how those are the pinnacles, but this is the reality right now in the 21st century is like, we've got those things that we love. And then there's all sorts of new things being created by toy fans too. So I'm all about it. Anyway, I know you've been looking at these. You've been hearing from me, Matthew, and some other folks in your chat saying, brutal realm, brutal realm, brutal realm. Any general thoughts on it or the Kickstarter?
I love that it was funded. I love whenever these Kickstarters get funded. Yep. I get stoked about it. This in particular, the more we're looking at it, you're a heck of a salesman, Rick.
Oh.
I just keep looking and just the movement on these, because we were talking earlier about just huge bucks being able to move like this.
Yep.
Is ridiculous. And you're absolutely right, man. For science, this is necessary. I got to check one of these out. Nice. So yeah, I mean, general thoughts are awesome. They crushed it. They
really did. And like you said, I know some folks were concerned that it wouldn't make it. And now they are going to make it. And these figs will exist and they're going to be available for people to buy. And I think that's amazing. Thanos is a little greedy. He's like, okay, now let's just hit Athena. But no, I understand why. That is a completely new and unique figure and body type. And I'm excited about that as well. I don't know. I think I and many people did, but I'm glad. Maybe I introduced you and Gene and sorry, I keep saying Gene. My bad, dude. John and Josh to the realm. But what's going on, RG? Thank you for joining. Let's see. Nolan's also wanting to see Athena. See, here you go. Like, right? Folks are thinking about Ultimate Hulk customs. Let's see. Chief Motto looks fantastic. My favorite one out of them all. Thanos is leaning, aside from Athena, towards a Great Khan.
Telling you, man, that Great Khan's going to kill the rest of your collection. And watch out for that thing.
Ray backed for all 3 of the original characters. KJ Smith is in the house. Hello, sir. Black Phoenix is also here and saying that these guys look awesome. Yeah. Nolan went after Ogun and Chief Motto, waiting for Athena. But if she doesn't make it, going after the Great Khan. I love that. We can't have all the things, but I love that you're like, okay, there's 3 I can do. There you go.
And now, I mean, we're hitting the final days of the Kickstarter. That's when things kick up. I don't think I'd quit on Athena happening.
I'm not.
Right.
Nope. Keep hope alive. Star Wars taught me that hope is rebellions are built on hope.
Yep.
The bow is articulated. Thank you, Thanos. That's a thing now between Awok, Meryl the Cardinal Bard, and the Great Khan. We're getting all sorts of fun articulated bows. Nolan's going to add the owls. Star thinks that Uruk is Gimli on steroids.
That's pretty close.
I'm pretty sure Gimli's already on steroids or some equivalent thing from the ground in
they added some TRT to this version.
If the paint apps are as good as we're seeing in these things, that will be super impressive. I really, really hope so. And that's the thing, Ray and everyone, like, based on the figures that we're seeing from indies in particular, it's hard for me to these days assume that they're going to be bad, because I'm looking at, Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions. The paint apps on those are often, in my opinion, superior to anything that Mattel's given us in Masterverse, or I would argue even classified. Awok solid, Savage Crucibles are solid. Like, they just, the freaking Frazetta girls. So it's sort of like, if I'm one to believe a track record in what I see, it's more than likely that they're going to be able to do it. These factories are amazing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, Robo did his thing on Monster Force. Dude, the way those, like, when we looked at the initial prototype images, guns are black, and now you're looking like, wow, they killed it with their paint apps.
Let's see. Yeah, E. McNeil is definitely hoping we get that Athena figure. Star is down for Chief Motto. The blanks are a must for Star. And Sean is asking, hey, Sean, do I know if I pick the alt-in, can I pick the 3 figures I want? That's what I've heard James say repeatedly, that in backer kit, after this is all said and done, at the end of the day, and I think some of the language in Kickstarter alludes to that you basically truly will get to choose exactly which figures you want. Especially for something like this, it's a little different from, say, the Awok Kickstarter, where there were like different sized figures at different price points. They're all kind of roughly the same price point. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because that's my understanding. So, okay, let's move on. We love Realm Toys. Well done. I love Realm Toys. Let's get brutal. I should put that in there just to make it super easy. Here's the thing. bit.ly/getbrutal. You can also do Let's Get Brutal, and it'll take you to the Kickstarter. Okay. Actually, let's not totally move on from the big buff dudes. Let's just note that, again, you could go to Big Bad Toy Store and grab them there as well. You can see they've got the ones that are currently unlocked. And then the Kickstarter. Let's shift. I know you've told me, you mentioned Wukong earlier before, like you're saying. So you're saying that was not something you were super familiar with. Is that right?
No. Like, when we're talking video games specifically, the last game I really got into was Halo 3.
Gotcha.
So it's been a bit, but I've been reading up on this thing. Looks like it's a monster. Like, it's crushing.
If it makes you, like, you use the term bad nerd, and I know it's in jest, but Halo is a huge hole in my pop cultural experience. I think I played it a couple times, but so Wukong, yes, you're referring to specifically video game wise. This is a video game that launched just a couple of days ago or this past week. That it's called Black Myth Wukong. Then it's essentially like an open world. You play as Sun Wukong, which is based on an old Chinese epic piece of literature called The Journey to the West, essentially. That and so there have been different versions of this character in pop culture. Like a lot of folks recognize that the earliest season, I guess you'd call it, or the first, I don't know what you call it, series of Dragon Ball Z with Goku was largely a sort of retelling of Wukong's story.
And really?
Little, he had a complete with monkey tail and flying on a Nimbus, just like Sun Wukong did.
I wondered about that because I saw some gameplay and I saw him using that. I don't know much about DBZ either, but I do know about the Nimbus and all that. And I'm going, I didn't know that it was such a direct tie-in.
Yep. And there are a lot of other things. There were cartoons back in the day on Fox, and at least here in the West, but it's huge across Asia, of course, in China. And so it doesn't surprise me that, like, for a brand new video game, 10 million units sold across all the different platforms, 3 million players working across all platforms. I actually don't even know if there's a real time, like when you get to run into other people or not. I don't know enough about the game. Right. I was just like, oh, this is cool. I've watched gameplay here. And in fact, let me go ahead and bring this up. So here is from the game. And I'll watch sort of a little bit of it by Game Science, but just it's a feast. And I'm going to turn the audio down a little bit, but just it's gorgeous. Like, I want to watch this show, which is
I know, man. This is, compared to Super Mario Brothers, this is doing a little bit.
Yeah, and you can kind of see there's all sorts of different sort of like god-like characters, demon-like characters, birds that he goes up against. He hangs out with a pig, Pigsy, and there's all sorts of different creatures in this thing. And what's great is, as we move, I love this too. He pulls his staff out of his ear, and that's a thing in the story.
I didn't know
that. It's fantastic stuff. I'm curious, has anybody here actually played the game? But it's huge. And so, yeah, again, this is it. And this was sort of like their launch, and it's like truly like a global thing. And you see, like, they were like, okay, it's going to launch on August 20th in London, August 20th at 11 in Japan. And so fantastic. I don't know. It's a thing. And the reason I'm kind of putting it with this is like action figures. We've seen a bunch of Wukong action figures recently.
Yep.
I think the one that caught a lot of people's attention at first was the figure obscura by Four Horsemen. You're familiar with that one? Yeah.
I am.
Gorgeous figure. I love it. It was one of my favorites. And then around the same time, favorites of that year, there was N.E.W. Studios. Are you familiar with the N.E.W. body at all? Have you heard people talk about that?
I know of N.E.W. Studios, but to say a N.E.W. body, not really.
And well, it's just like it's their buck, and people, a lot of folks love it because of the articulation and the movement.
Okay.
And so they made one. Here, I'll show. This is actually their figure as photoed by Lord Bobasaurus. I know you yourself.
That photo is amazing.
Yep. That's your thing. You're a toy photographer, and you've done a lot with the toy photography community in terms of like providing resources and a bunch of really great videos that break it down for folks like me, or like kind of curious and how people do it and if they want to get started. Right. So this is Lord Bobasaurus. I don't know. Have you seen this figure at all, or not really?
I don't think so.
Sorry,
I mean, I haven't seen any of this in real life.
Okay. Yeah. This is the N.E.W.S, and I absolutely love it. So he comes with, I'm showing him to show you, like he comes with all sorts of different pieces. So there's an alternate head where he kind of like essentially hulks out. You see these different giant forearms that you can put in, soft goods, moves beautifully. And then of course here is the figure Obscura.
That was nice.
I'm a bit of a,
yeah.
I was just gonna say I'm a bit of a Wukong stan. I love this stuff. Even since I was a kid, there was one of my first anime experiences was with a show called they called it Space Cateers here. I don't know what it was called in Japan, but it was also like a kind of like Goku was, like a veiled Journey to the West thing done in like a sci-fi kind of setting.
Okay.
But so I loved it, and when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, that's great! Horsemen are doing one. Oh, N.E.W.S got one. Cool! Like, when am I ever gonna get a Wukong figure?" Right. And it's ridiculous because right now there's like 6 or 7 Wukong figures, and they're all amazing. Like,
yeah, really. I know I've talked about a couple of them, and like I'm a big. This is the dumbest thing. Monkeys have always been my animal. And so like seeing Sun Wukong, then I'm going on other sites and going, oh, look, I like super action stuff. You can buy just bananas. So we can load up on monkey action figures.
Hence Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. It always goes back to AWOC.
I know. I need a thing.
When they mentioned AWOC, like one of my earliest thoughts was like, ooh, I could totally turn one of these into a Monkey King, a Sun Wukong. And then here we are. Right. So here is, so that was the figure that came out. It really started getting into domestic hands earlier in 2023.
Okay.
But now they released this, and I want to check this out. This is N.E.W.S kind of saying like, hey, we're going to revisit Wukong, but like he goes through different stages and of his journey. And so they put this out, and just even from a videography thing, check this out, stop motion.
No, you sent this to me and I couldn't believe it. This is ridiculous. Like,
I love it. And those are all accessories that come with the figure.
You know what I noticed is I know how hard it is to the point where I've never done it. His hand showing up at the same time that they're doing all that. I'm like, that took a lot.
Yeah. The humans, you mean the person?
Yeah.
I've sat here and I'm like, okay, are they, essentially like plating it, or are they shooting this first and then shooting the human? Like, wow, what a feat.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that it's so fun. And then the way they sort of represent his powers here, look at that. That's him on the. Ooh, that's like I can't help it but make sounds like.
You're all right. No worries.
But I'm gonna go ahead and skip here. So I don't know how the whole copyright thing ends. Hopefully it doesn't. Not an issue, but it's rad. Thanos put in the link. You should definitely check it out. But you can kind of see.
Okay, so during his journey, he has different looks. Different transformations, kind of. Okay, got it.
So this is essentially like him, like the figure Obscura version in the full-on armor with the phoenix feathers in his head, and the fully realized staff and everything. So, so this is coming next. So, if you didn't spend enough money already, there is a new figure from N.E.W.S coming, a new Sun Wukong, because apparently you can't get too many Sun Wukongs.
Right now is the time, man. Ride that hype train.
Yeah, and it's funny because the game's there too. Lego even had their original line where they're trying to like break in a little bit more to the Chinese market with they called it Monkey Kid.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
And then on top of that, friend, Dave, like there's even more. And I couldn't even tell you who this is. So this appeared thanks to Internet Todd over on the Toy Migos Discord. And so this is a whole other company. He didn't have the name. No one really knows like which company this is. This is a colored version of a prototype. Let me go ahead and show you what the the prototype is. So yeah. John's asking, when are they going to give an extendable pole, or at least poles of different length? And the N.E.W. one doesn't have an extendable pole. It comes with multiple poles, and one, including one that is bent and is like energized up, and it's got
So
like
like he's swinging it. Okay.
Yeah, the deluxe version of that. But man, I love this sculpt, this head sculpt.
Now, is this, so you said it was kind of painted up prototype, so we're not looking at factory here?
Nope.
Okay.
As far, you know what? As far as we know, no, because oftentimes, as you're right, that sometimes things will come out of Asia and it'll be pretty far in the process. But yeah,
I mean, so whether that's factory or not, that paint job is ridiculous.
And this is what they're working with. So this is like the this would be essentially everything that would be coming with this thing. You can kind of see the armor. He's got a lamp. He's got the phoenix feathers. It looks like maybe an extension. I'm not sure. Oh no, different stages of the staff. And this cool flag and base. Just to show you a couple more. Look at the pose and the attitude, right? As a photographer, getting that, like, you know, that physical attitude.
You're killing me, Brick.
We're enjoying. We don't got to buy everything, but like this is window shopping.
Right.
We're window shopping here. You can see the soft
amazing.
goods. Yeah, look at the detail on the armor. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I love this. Just chilling, like, you know. Come at me, bro. Man. He says. You got that, like, you have to, that's a tricky thing. I love my figure obscura. But you know, it's legions. It's great. It can move, but it can't move as like to truly do some of the gung fu, like, you know, things that double knees and elbows will give you. But you can tell, like, these guys are like, they know they're showing you that, yeah, if you get this figure, you'll be able to make Wukong be Wukong and do his thing.
Yeah, doing all the Wukong things.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're a fan of Wukong or Animal Warriors, they're there, and it totally looks like a brass statue for sure. Okay, moving on. Speaking of like monkeys, no beasts, feral animals. Let's head over to Mafex. Hey, I know this is something you wanted to talk about. I saw these. Tell us about these.
Those are just, okay, so they're Age of Apocalypse. What was that? 90s kind of alternate universe type stuff. It's Wolverine, so I keep looking at it going, man, I try not to veer outside of the 616. Oh, but it's Wolverine. So I'm kind of stuck on this. I just love, you know, the way they move is going to be ridiculous. One thing that drives me a little crazy about the Mafex photos, because people that don't have Mafex will always say, the shoulders don't look good, right? And sometimes it's that the photographer doesn't know how to mess with the shoulders. And so every time I see these kinds of things, like the last picture specifically, I'll see that and I'm like, just push in the shoulders a little more, because that's the kind of thing that people are going to say things, you know?
To get it like shrugged in so that these things are,
Yeah.
And hidden, I guess, up here, so you don't get that big bulge.
Right. And even if that's not hidden, it doesn't look natural. Do you remember, so the Toypixx, the first Daredevil, like, do you remember just how like it was just a huge ball basically off his shoulders?
That was so long ago. No.
Right. I remember seeing that stuff and loving the articulation, but going, oh, it's kind of like Toypixx. Early Toypixx was like early Amazing Yamaguchi. And then they started refining a little better, and just like Amazing Yamaguchi is doing now. So yeah, it gives me kind of flashbacks to that old Daredevil that just had these big ball shoulders.
Are we talking like this?
Yes. Gotcha, you're talking a little bit like that guy.
Yep. That makes sense.
But I mean, Mafex doesn't need to be like that. You can push in the shoulders. It's a great articulation scheme up there. Yeah,
and then so you said we do see it here a little bit more, and so Again, I'm not familiar. I've seen a lot of these, but never handled them. So what's going on with the sort of this butterfly area? Is it fully rotatable at that point as well? Ooh.
Yeah, it kind of, so you can bring it in, you can push it up, you can put, I'm using me, here we go.
Yeah, no, that's what I do too. Yeah, it's like, because, when I would draw
Right.
or whatever, it would be like, okay, what am I trying to achieve? So you can basically roll the shoulders in. That's interesting.
Yeah, and you can do a little bit, like you see the cutout there at the butterfly, that actually looks like a pretty sizable cutout. So I found that a lot of butterflies don't work like they should, but you could probably bring that across, and because of the bicep, you can really get a lot of this going on. So they're really easy to pose, which is the big draw, that beyond the fact that a lot of them are characters I love,
Yeah. I will say, so I mentioned to you, if you wanted to talk about these, it's like, oh, I've got something to say about these. Because and credit to credit to Metacom. So I actually like what they did with these sculpts, because so there's two characters. There's the Wolverine / Logan from Age of Apocalypse. Got all the different head sculpts. I love it. I love the emotional states they shared. And then of course, him and this guy got beef because they do across universes.
Right, that's a multiverse thing.
Cyclops being responsible for his missing hand. Spoiler. But so this is what I'll say, and this is Cyclops with his long hair, very 90s, like.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Everybody got me. All right, Brick might have froze. I'm talking. We'll talk about the Cyclops thing here. Check out how crazy that little effect is. Like, we don't see effects like that very often on very much at all. It's just good stuff. Like, I don't know. And then, of course, on Mafex, you get a lot of the way that they paint them up. So you've got a little bit of shine going on the gold parts. There's a much more dull finish. Ooh, look at that. Hello, thumb, and a whole lot of light. But there's a much more dull finish going on the clothes. So it's a little extra care that they take, which is nice because it's sort of a mass-produced line. I mean, it's just cool. It's good stuff. So now we have a white screen. We'll see what happens. Now I'm actually wondering if I should juggle, which, like I said earlier, I can't do. It's kind of a problem when it comes to live streams, trying to figure this stuff out. So we shall see what happens. I don't even have access. Let me see if I can get access to the comments a little. I'm not sure I can. Let's see here. Ooh, I do have access. It looks like. Harry-O, a one-eyed Cyclops. All right, guys, I'm not sure I can actually push the buttons, but I'll read some of these comments here that's going on. Let's see. We lost a brick from Thanos Copter. You're good, Brick froze. Thank you, Nolan. Let's see. I wish Legends would do more effects like that. It would be tough, man. Let's see. Harry with the one-eyed Cyclops. Alberto Morales. Ha ha ha. Let's see. Oh dear. Okay, guys. Here's something I don't like to share, but now we have glasses. All right. Hakuna. Haha. Let's see. Kamustaka, y'all. I got nothing, Alberto. I'm sorry. Let's see. I like this version, but I want to see people review this one before I buy it. My concern would be that the hair and shoulder pad would hinder the articulation too much for me. And that's a real thing. When Mafex figures have longer hair, you're going to get hosed because there's just not going to be a whole lot of movement there. One of the figures I have that it really hinders is actually Huntress. And Huntress is an awesome looking figure. I love posing her out when I can, but there are only specific angles you can pose her out in because of the way that the hair is sculpted. So yeah, I think that's a very real thing to worry about. Let's see, highly articulated. My only issue with these, let's see, AOA figures is that I want all of them. Fortunately, there's not too many. I think it's just Magneto, Cyclops. What's up, Rick?
Apparently the internet's down, so I'm phone right now. Oh, like maybe it's kicking back in.
Well, I've been seeing what we got going, and I can see you on here now.
Oh,
all right, everybody, can you see Brick?
Good times, good times. Thank you all so Thank you
Oh,
for your
dear.
professionalism, man. Look at you vamping and handling it. I don't
It
know what
happens,
happened.
man.
Everything just crapped out. That was the first time in a long time that I've had that. So anyway, wow. Okay, cool. The show must go on. I'm sorry to interrupt. Were you in the middle of saying something?
No. I mean, we can just keep going. We were talking Cyclops. We were talking all this stuff. People are concerned about articulation, which I can see. That's a very real thing with Mafex when it comes to, because they're not using, you know how Jada's using softer plastics for their D and everything else. With Mafex, it's all just hard plastic. So that head is going to be pretty limited to what it's going to be able to do.
Mm. So yeah, were there any particular comments that you wanted that you addressed or wanted to continue, or do I just?
I mean, we can go back to the comments and keep seeing what's going on. We lost a break.
I don't know if you were addressing one, but okay. Well, here, yes, it's a one-eyed Cyclops. Yes, it was the age. So they both Logan and Cyclops hurt each other real good. ¿Cómo está, Alberto? Alberto, No Chewing is saying, I like this version, but I want to see people review this one before I buy it. My concern would be that the hair and shoulder. Oh, that's what you're mentioning. The hair and shoulder.
No Chewing was who he was talking to.
So this guy, and that's what you're addressing, the hair, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. The hair, the shoulders. I mean, he's right. It might be that the shoulder is going to be in the way a little bit. I mean, it probably will go up to maybe. You'll get a little bit of a bend, but you're not going to get a full, like, you know, the T-pose thing probably isn't going to happen here unless they really cut out quite a bit on the side. And I didn't look at the pictures close enough to find out. Nope, they did not.
No, it looks pretty like there is a limitation on that. But you know what's funny when it comes to things like that? I think people are 100% right. But like, let's say if this were like truly a dude with really bad hair wearing this costume, he would be limited, right? I mean, by that shoulder, which I guess. But then at the end of the day, they're comics, and we're trying to, like, you know, probably recreate the dynamism of those sort of things. Highly articulated saying, my only issue with these Age of Apocalypse figures is that I want them all.
We did sketch Highly. That was right. I think I was saying the only ones they've made so far, I think, was Magneto before these two. So it's not too bad yet, but if you want the AOA, you better jump in.
So you're saying Mafex, they what have they done for Mafex? They've done
the Age of Apocalypse Magneto so far as well.
Okay.
But I think he's the only AOA one that they've done before these two were put up for pre-order.
I loved the design and look of Magneto. It wasn't that far off from his original, but of course it had the sort of like influence of Joe Madureira's art, which is very like new school graffiti mixing in manga and anime styles with like, so good, exaggerated.
Was awesome.
So, but here's the thing. I hear you, Adam, but I will say, this is my take. These two characters in particular, I think are ugly. Of all of the designs in Age of Apocalypse, these are easily, hands down, my least favorite redesigns of the characters. I hate that, like, Cyclops looks like Richter in Richter's worst costume.
Oh, I never put that together, but you're absolutely right.
But that's just me. This is totally subjective. So
no, you're right though.
Yeah, but there's a point, there's a method to my madness. I love the character ideas. I love the notion of each of them taking taking an eye out of Cyclops is a beautiful thing, and taking the hand off of Logan is great. Right. All of that said, that's why I was intrigued by these, because I was especially not into the Marvel Legends versions of these, the sculpts, and I'm not trying to put one down to raise the other one up. Right. But I'll just say, when I saw these, I was like, whoa, those actually look pretty cool. So respect to Mafex, because they made these designs that I would like otherwise kind of like, but I think they look really great. I'm really into the way they handled the hair on this, too. That wild, like huge hair, almost like Beast too. There were some drawings that were like this. There were other drawings that were a little more subdued, depending on where, which books they got him from the Age of Apocalypse stuff. But like he almost looks like the Beast. If you remember what the Beast looked like, really big in this.
Yep.
I just think they made some really cool decisions with this. There were drawings like this of Wolverine, but and I love that he's got the alt hand. Do you know how they do this? Is it like
Usually that looks like they're just gonna pop out like a cap and then put that cap back on.
Okay.
I mean, I know for the hands, that's all they do is they just pop them off, and it's a friction joint or a friction peg kind of thing. My
backhanded way of saying I think these things, the designs in general are ugly, but Mafex made them look good. So for what it's worth, but you know, I love Age of Apocalypse though. I do. I just like, I felt like with these two, anyways, whatever, moving on. I'm not going to litigate the past. So are you in on these, or you're saying you normally get more 616?
I normally get more 616, but I'm a sucker for Logan. So I don't know that I'll end up with Cyclops this go around, but I'll probably end up with him eventually. I do want to order Logan.
And I don't pay enough attention to Mafex. Is this normal where they'll actually kind of show them in battle and posing and stuff?
You know, it hasn't been traditionally, but they are getting a little more with stuff like that in their product images. But it's not something like, if you go back, for instance, one of the figures I'm really looking forward to right now is the Mafex, the 616 Captain America. And there's none of that going on in there. They're just showing the parts, showing different poses. And that's most Mafex figures. This is fairly unique.
Well, I mean, if you got it, flaunt it. If you can get them in these positions, if you can recreate those kind of key battles and scenes, like I love that. And so I think it's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty. And shout out to Lago Figs and Toy Migos for posting that where I grabbed it from. Let's move on. World of Warcraft, is that a thing for you? I know
not so much, but I don't mind looking at pretty stuff.
Yeah. So there's this weird thing that's been happening where there are these third parties overseas that have just been creating, like basically building out all of these World of Warcraft toys, and they don't have the license. So these are all unlicensed. There's memory toys, there's hero toys, there's a couple of different makers. They all work with each other scale wise, and they're all really good. Like it's amazing. Like the paints, like who has it here? I think it's McFarlane. They're not great figures in my opinion. They're actually the current ones are basically like statues. He's kind of taken that approach, and they're an odd scale. So
no, I'm that probably McFarlane Toys is the company I'm most critical of. And you know what it is? It's we grew up with this guy that was an amazing artist.
Yep.
And so I always want that, being amazing at that. He was like number one.
Yep.
And so I'm like, you're amazing, man. Number one here. Let's do this, you know?
Yep.
That's my frustration with McFarlane stuff.
Oh man, I missed some of these questions, and just because of time, man, we will talk. I would love to talk AOA. They were such great stuff. Yes, agreed, Alberto. This was the Adam Kubert stuff on the Weapon X book from that series, and yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna pass by the AOA. Let's move into the world of World of Warcraft, but so this is another one of those things. So they've done a couple of different figures, and this is now I think Undead Shaman. I am not a World of Warcraft person. I'm a Warcraft person from back in the day, but a lot of these are newer, and it's been so long. Thanos, who's helping with the show, is all about it. So I'm often like, hey, Thanos, what's this? Tell me about it. So he was breaking down, so this is not really a named character, and that there are sort of different it's basically a generic, I guess, undead shaman, and they can conjure like imps, which is what this guy is.
That dude's cool.
Yeah, and it comes with like, these little things that like, who does that? Like, would Mattel do that and fully like, and you can see the light up eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna light up, like just based on what they've done. There's no way that that doesn't light up. Like I have a Illidan where you put like a little thing to his head, magnet, and it lights up. I can see them doing it for both the main character and the little imp that he conjures. And then yeah, he's got a little middle finger. Hey Thanos, is that what do you call it? Is that canon? Do you do that in the game?
That's everybody that's sitting around the table.
Yeah. Undead warlock, but they call it shaman is what it is. Yeah. Okay. It's cool, man. I love it. Other folks, I'm assuming, are probably more familiar with Warcraft, see this. I think it's really, really cool. It's okay, Star. It's just a matter of time to go through Warcraft, and maybe they'll get through some StarCraft too. The flipping of the bird is not canon, really. You know, that's what they're doing behind the keyboards, though.
That's what I'm saying, man. He needs word balloons that just have insults all over the place.
So this is a thing. Usually this account, Patrick Chow, will drop them. Then 5K Toys will announce, "Oh, coming to pre-order soon," and then it just kind of shows up.
I didn't know that. I look on 5K quite a bit, but I didn't know they were basically like, "Oh, hey, look, this guy's posting stuff. Now we better talk about it."
Well, I don't know if it's direct, but I've just noticed that's the pattern. So
okay.
Anyway, so there's that. And if you're like a person like me who likes the fantasy stuff, and the Brutal Realm could go up against these guys, so good Mythic Legions, and so I think that's cool. And it doesn't stop there, because this was a thing that just showed up 2 days ago. And I'm like, this is an example where 5K is just like, yeah, there's this company that you might not have ever heard of called Keep Going, and they're going to do a 112 thing called the Next Ghost. And I just look at these. This is like straight up, like, I think it's more out of like the Chinese tradition of demons and ghosts than say Japanese. I think I'm looking at the sort of like look of it, but again, it's just like, we could always use like ghosts and spirits from all sort of different like lore and mythology. I just think it's a cool looking thing. I don't know that will I get one. Depending on price, I might actually, because that's how I am.
Right.
But it's just so different, and like, I don't know. I'm intrigued by that kind of stuff. Anyway, I could see maybe some of your Mafex guys going up against this. I could see this being like a, horde of these weird little ghost things. Like, I don't know.
Oh man, I'm looking at these and thinking about, what is it, Mondo's Ghostbusters? Like getting them involved with that undead warlock or undead shaman or whatever too.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Again, we started talking about how great a time it is for collectors and toys. And again, not everybody's this way. Other folks are like you. I'm 616, and you had a video on rules, right? Your rules of collecting.
I try, man. And part of it is, I know. So one of the things that always feels like a cheat to me is when I say, "Hey, what are some guidelines or rules you've got in your collecting?" And people will say, "I buy what I like." I look at, there's not one thing that we've looked at tonight that I didn't think was cool. Yeah, and so I'm like, I buy what I like as a cheat, because I would spend $3,000 a month on this stuff, So it's kind of like, let's just try and dial it back so I don't go crazy and lose all my money in space.
Absolutely. And I love Marvel. Like, I was a comic book collector. Star Wars is one of my favorite things in the world. But strangely, in my sort of like 2.0 version of collecting, my sort of Toy Life Crisis, I actually don't collect either of those things. So it's created this room to like, oh, I want to have fun in these sort of other things that are new. And that's just where I'm at. Right, and I'm happy. Right. I'm happy for it. Like, I love the way this thing moves. Anyway, that's a thing. Look out for it. Other folks are like, I agree with this, KJ, so much. The third-party stuff right now is just ridiculously good.
And that's where it's tough. Like we were talking before, where like, if I just jumped into one of these, right, or something else from another line, suddenly I'm just going, I want them all. And so it's just that collector's paradox where you're going, how many rabbit holes do I want to potentially start?
Think of it like, yeah, you should maybe, I always say for science, because I am curious. Like if I were to get a Mafex, I'm just curious to know. But it doesn't necessarily mean I would necessarily go in. So like deep. But, and space and money, those are real limits anyways. Like even if I wanted to, I couldn't. I'm looking at also like, this is what, a ghost, an unnamed ghost, not tied to like a massive franchise. And they're putting in all that articulation and the sculpt. I was like, what world are we living in?
You could put this guy, so get a Mephisto or like the Marvel Legends Blackheart Build-A-Figure and just surround him with these guys. Like,
are we going to get a Sim? He was one of my favorite demons.
Oh,
you know what? I would love a new version of Sim.
That's be all right.
I don't know how people pronounce it, but like with a cigar and like his big old bulky body.
Right.
Anyway, let's see. Yeah, on the Keep Going Studio packaging, it says presented by Hot Toys. Oh, okay. So it's somehow connected to Hot Toys. I'm actually not at all, KJ, familiar with Keep Going Studios. So thank you for that. I need to check it out. Yeah, and so Harry is saying like, yeah, if we're doing these, like, where's our whole line of Japanese yokia or like ghosts, demons, oni? Like, well, that's coming. So here, yep. Yokai, not yokia, sorry, yokai. E. McNeil saying that absolutely. Check out, look out for Spiro Toys line of at least oni figures and ninja and samurai. That'll be coming.
Really?
Anyway,
I feel like now I need to look up yokai. I don't know much about that.
Oh, here, I'll show you some fun. Yeah, man, it's just like it's gorgeous stuff. All these like monstrous demon type things. Oh, here. No, I shouldn't show that one. That's maybe a little too much. I'm staring at one with like an eyeball coming out of the rear end. But there's all sorts of
both sides.
Fun stuff here. Like you can look at, just super imaginative. And I'm not trying to whatever. I'll just say imaginative. That's fine. Visions of like the supernatural and demons and stuff. So, yeah, can you imagine? Anyway, like, and in this day and age, someone will do it.
Someone can do it.
So, all right, let's move on. Speaking of Japan, giant robots. Is this stuff that you're familiar with? Mazinger? Nope. No. No judgment. If anything, we'll just spread the stuff. In the United States, they brought it over and did like a localization. They called it Transor Z. It was like on at like 6 a.m. But yeah, Mazinger Z. And before then, in the late 70s, early 80s, there was the Shogun Warriors by Marvel. They did like Mazinger Z in particular. They did Guy King, Ray Dean. I'm forgetting to do with the red sort of thing. And then they did like Godzilla and a Rodan that kind of worked with them. Anyway, huge, obviously, like it's from Japan. And so they've been making toys of this since the beginning. And a lot of them are Sofubi. This account, L77 Leo, has just, I've been really into, since going to Japan this summer, I've been posting stuff with like the stuff that I've seen. And then my algorithms like kicked me back a bunch of cool like collectors of Japanese toys. I love this. And so, and I love when people really curate their stuff. It's very like, oh, look at these art objects, that this is what I want to see someday in a museum. So I just, this is some of the key characters / robots in it. And I love these old, some simple Sofubi designs. The Mazinger has different sort of like iterations and versions, variants. Okay. And so are you familiar with like the Shogun Warriors? We've seen those maybe at
I've seen some, like I recognize this design and I recognize like the Mazinger Z with the big red wings and all that.
Yep, exactly. So like, and you can see like the variety of toys. It's so neat to see like them all kind of in different scales next to each other. There's some of the other ones that eventually got turned into like Shogun Warriors. But I don't know. I just love this stuff. And there's something about the language that was happening in Japan around that time with Go Nagai, the artist, and like the visual language is just so different from some of the stuff that we got here as pop culture that I like as a kid. I was always like, wow, that's amazing. It's like a whole other world of nerd. So yeah, man, I'm all about it. It was totally a cartoon. And they, yeah, like I said, they localized it here. Transor Z was kind of whack, but just, you know, like many things, like when they bring it here, but it was still, it was cool to see. Yep, exactly, Star. This was the stuff that like my brother is 5 years older than me. I was born. Wait, is that true? I always forget like what he had before I was born or not, because you know I was little. But I remember growing up as a kid and just seeing these big, like 3 foot tall.
Oh, they were huge, huh?
Rotocast, yeah, they're like Rotocast or hollow, but they were just so cool for kids, you know, playing with this. But anyway, I love these. And then he's also got other stuff. Oh, more Mazinger. I just love this stuff. And I'm always intrigued. The colors, the design, the different varieties.
I love simple design. And these are fairly simple colors and everything. I love simple design.
And then we get into this world of 2024 and people are like, that's not accurate. And that Marvel Legends character, they did the wrong hair. It's like, look at what they had in Japan. Like, and they were more than satisfied. And I think pretty satisfying. They're not on model. They're like, you know, sometimes they get real kind of wonky with how they reinterpret it in plastic, but I just think it's fun as hell.
No, it's very cool. I've been doing on my X account, I'll put up like Monday through Friday, I put up a picture and just say something like your robot action figures, a photo thread, and go. And so people are posting stuff like this, stuff that I don't know about. That's just it's so cool to see what everybody's got.
100%. And then adjacent, I'll see he had one of them. Those are the ones. These are the Shogun Warriors, man. I loved it. Here, speaking of localization, I'll allow it, Star. It's off tangent, but I'm right there with you. He says, I was pissed. I love Battle of the Planets. Then I saw the original Japanese Gatchaman. So here in the United States, we have Battle of the Planets / G-Force. In Japan, it was called Gatchaman. Okay. So then I saw the original Japanese Gatchaman, and it was so much more adult and not so soft pitched than what we saw Battle of the Planets. We were robbed. And it's the same for Voltron. If you've ever seen the original Voltron, it's kind of brutal. It's kind of dark. It's about war. But different cultures.
Right.
Treat kids differently. Same goes for Macross, man. Like, don't even get me started on Power Rangers, but
I saw the Gundam movies, like the original Gundam movies. I thought, okay, these are crazy.
And so it's funny too, and tangent, but when they took Gatchaman and brought it here as Battle of the Planets, because of the way 70s cartoons were, like, here, I'll give you an example. Super Friends. We know Superman. We know Batman, right?
Right.
So, like, we knew it. These things were there, but for some reason, was it Hanna-Barbera? Who did that?
Super Friends was Hanna-Barbera.
Hanna-Barbera. Yeah. They're like, well, no, there has to be the character that the kids can relate to. So there was like Wonder Dog, what his name, whatever, right?
There were the Wonder Twins.
And then later there was the Wonder Twins, right? They created this whole thing just because they thought there needed to be the audience kid surrogate.
Yep.
They did, and then they did something similar in Battle of the Planets, where they got this like robot and they cut in the crappy animation of this robot in this base, voiced by was it Casey Kasem? No, Casey Kasem was one of the characters. Anyways, it was like, it's just weird. It was, and you know, that said, thanks, Star. You took me on that tangent. Well done. And yes, Ray Dean was an early transforming robot turning into kind of a giant eagle. Yeah. See, look, this guy is telling me spend more money. I was just in Japan, and I didn't mention this to you, but the Mafex stuff in this one toy shop, I took all sorts of pictures. It was amazing. And if there was a time when I would have jumped in, it would have been there. But I've got a pretty good willpower. I gotta say, contrary to public belief.
Maybe that's where you got me beat. Because I'm like, I'll get an AWOC figure and be like, well, shoot, now I need the whole line.
Oh
And
no!
you'll pick something up and say, okay, I've handled it and I'm good now.
I hope I'm not going to be a pusher by giving you first one free. Here,
no, don't even worry about it. I keep thinking I need to jump in. Something you brought up, Casey Kasem, and I just noticed this as an adult. You know how he did the top 40 and all that stuff way back when?
Yeah.
So watching Transformers the movie.
Exactly.
At the beginning, Cliffjumper gives a countdown for one of the shuttles to take off.
Yep.
And I just suddenly start busting up. I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect.
And you realize he did it in the TV show too, right? Casey Kasem was the voice of Cliffjumper. Yeah.
Yep.
That was perfect to do the countdown and everything. Yeah.
I never even thought about it. And recently I'm like, wait a sec, how did I not put that together?
So Casey Kasem is the lead voice of the main sort of like hero that we're meant to follow in Battle of the Planets, the localization.
Okay.
Weird. It's just weird. You know, he's got his voice and he's supposed to be this teenager. They're supposed to be teen ninjas. Anyway, Ultraman is another thing that I love. I won't spend too much time here, but again, just seeing them all like this and lit up like this. Leo's got like such a cool collection. Look at that. So well curated.
Yep.
Nice vinyl collection over here. I love that kind of stuff. Even more just these kind of shots of, I don't know. I've always been intrigued by these, even though like if I actually watch the original show, it's not like my favorite thing to watch, but it's fun and weird and tokusatsu and the suits and stuff.
I started watching, what was it? It was the Ultraman that's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
I started watching a little bit of that, but I don't know enough of the lore.
Okay.
So I was trying to figure out, so when I do my thing on Mondays and I talk about the figures that have gone up, I never know, should I talk, like, is this Ultraman actually 1/12 scale, or is this just a really sized down figure, you know? So I'm always trying to figure that out, but I love the look of these things.
Oh, in terms of Ultraman growing big and small?
Exactly.
So he can do that. He can do that.
Show, it looks like they're 1/12, you know, or like
they're small, and then there are moments where they can grow big. The original ones, the Netflix ones. Sorry, now other tangent, but the Netflix one, by the way, this guy.
That's nice.
This is meant to be sort of like a sort of continuation of the original story. But anyway,
okay.
Yeah, people on the channel show like I got these delivered by a toy mule from Japan 2 weekends ago. So those are models of that exact series that you're saying from Netflix. I love it.
Okay.
And so again, you can see the variety. By the way, this is Ultraman Leo. So I don't know if that's where, I'm assuming that's where Leo got his name. But
got the handle.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on, man. Something different. Let's go from Japan to the UK, right? Is that where Warhammer's from? I think my understanding is that came out of like, I might be wrong, but I thought it was a UK thing out of the old games that they had with all the cool little miniatures. Made more popular now by Joy Toy and McFarlane doing figures. Like I don't follow those things, but I remember seeing them even as a kid going to like hobby shops and like, what is this world where like giant bulky marine type things with like orcs and giant armor and stuff. But I just saw this dio that someone's building, Imperium Nihilus is making, who's building the Emperor God essentially. And this dio is amazing. Whew.
When I looked at that, I was just going, oh, I don't even know what to say here. Like,
I don't either. I'm just like, I'm an appreciator of the craft that goes into this, the dedication, the peak nerd, like I'm just going to geek out on this for hours for a month. And I don't know. I really don't know how true this is. If folks, I think Star, okay. I feel like Star will know. Star's a big sci-fi person, and British. And I remember ordering Metal Game Minis. Yep, and for $40K, and you had to pay them in British pounds. Man, I look at this stuff, and I don't know how accurate it is. I'm assuming it is based on some of the artwork that I've seen, but this sort of like brutalist, like the Dune movies, the even the David Finch ones back in the day, but the newer ones, when they're representing the sort of bad house, the house Harkonnen. Oops, sorry, the Harkonnens. It's very much in that style, like, you know, giant, like despotic kind of, like, what do you call these, like heads of like these, you know, I guess the God Emperor, and just all the like little skulls going on here on this throne. I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, and I would imagine, to your point, it's got to be pretty accurate. I mean, fans tend to go as accurate as possible, you know?
Yep. But look at just the amazing, like, this is art. Justin Mohan in another chat, and Adam's chat was saying, like, you know, with Kickstarters, I want to support this stuff because these are like artists, and this is art. And it 100% is, as well as the fans who like go above and beyond to kind of create dios and play sets and worlds for their figures to be on. Like all these greebly galores. I don't even know where they're sourcing these pieces, or they're printing them, but
I mean, Warhammer, it's a pretty old franchise at this point, isn't it?
Yes, so yes, it is.
There's got to be plenty of material out there for them to look.
That's true. Just like, look at this world, man. And I've heard that Henry Cavill's a big Warhammer guy.
I've heard the same.
Trying to get this. Yeah, I want to say you might have even talked about it on one of your streams, and I don't know. I think this is really cool. I don't know where you put this. I mean, clearly it's in the middle of this room. But anyway, that's all. Just some art. Harry, who knows? What's the chances this guy is married? For all we know, his spouse is a huge Warhammer fan too, and this is their child.
This is true.
It's so freaking crazy. 100%. And this thing is off the hook, and the hooks are right here, and it's right. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, sorry, bad pun. You and I have that in common, Dave.
Great. Awesome.
Anyway, just amazing art and respect to Imperium Nihilus. Check that stuff out. Go tell them like that you respect their nerd, because
God, that's the next thing I want to get into. I want to get into dios, and man, that you're not kidding. That thing is art.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean,
I will say, if you own that thing, you better be taking pictures of it for like years.
Oh yeah.
So you said you give McFarlane a hard time, and I've been surprised every now and then by McFarlane's that I pick up. Mm-hmm. I do think Todd and his toys, as you've said in the past, they were like often like on the bleeding edge of sculpt, and I see that still occasionally there. It's in there, and you know, obviously all sorts of different artists come through. Fun fact: the Four Horsemen came and worked with McFarlane back in the day. Mm-hmm. But then I see people like doing stuff like this. There's a couple of folks out there who will take McFarlane figures and customize them. And I see people doing a lot of in particular, making Marvel figures out of it.
Right.
WPG Diorama, or Kyle. I don't know Kyle's full name, but man, I love what he does. And of course, a lot of it too is because we now have this dope sort of 3D sculpting and printing community that gives him access to the cool heads. He's real good about kind of letting you know. So if you're curious, go check out
also like the recipes, you mean?
Yep. No one's hiding him. He's like big on telling you what resin he uses and stuff too. But this is his take on Fantastic Four, the universe of the Fantastic Four, and you can kind of see he's starting to play with what might happen in the MCU with the likeness of Pedro there.
Oh, and that Galactus is nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love how they painted the thing going on there with the lighting. It looks like it's glowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this thing is beautiful. I don't know. I haven't looked close enough to know sort of like which McFarlane figs he uses. And he uses a mix of things. So some of them may not actually be based on McFarlane. But in his sort of like bio, Kyle's bio, it's like McFarlane custom figures. So Nobbin tag. So great stuff. Look at that. Take that, HasLab. No. We too can do a yeah, he wanted to get his own Death's Head Galactus as well. It's an interesting take on Doom. I dig it. I'm a big Elseworlds kind of person, and so I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't know. Have you ever tried doing like custom kind of stuff? Is that
way back when G.I. Joe, when they came, what was it? Oh, what was it called? Like the Valor versus Venom era spy troops, stuff like that. I painted up because Flint was my favorite, or is my favorite G.I. Joe character. So I made like Flint in green and desert and all that stuff. But that's about it. That's the last time I did any of that stuff. And that was, like I said, spy troops. That was probably early 2000s, maybe late 90s. I don't know.
Well, this person is hardcore and doing such a great job. I love when people kind of are willing to play with the characters that we love, and just like he's like, well, I want this Galactus.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's something I'm not great at. I feel like my imagination needs to be better. Like the sculpting that he did in that thing is insane. It looks so good.
Here is his take on sort of X characters, right? Mutant characters, different eras. Like you can kind of see where he's leaning towards, like, oh, Jim Lee kind of era, but there's definitely unique takes on it. I feel like that's totally like Azrael, right? This piece here, and using different parts that exist with McFarlane. We don't normally get this kind of ribbing for Magneto, but kind of cool. These are all great. 7-inch, big old. These are going to be your big old Marvel characters. And then here's the Spideyverse, if you will. Cool take. I like the Rhino a lot.
I was just going to say that Rhino looks ridiculous.
Which is cool stuff to see it all together. And I don't know. I didn't realize there were a bunch of them. This is cool. I just feel like I can imagine being this person. It's like, we love our toys, right? And then to all the customizers who are like literally building new things out of these toys, this is your art. It really is art. Like it's sculpting. It's, we take a lot of it for granted these days. Oh God. So good. Sorry, I'm just like, that's so. I didn't see this one.
You don't need to apologize for geeking out on this stuff, man. This is incredible.
But yeah, you imagine like stepping back and looking at all your work like this. Like this is, I said on a previous stream earlier today, I was like, man, if I ever win the lotto, like I just want to start a museum, because like this stuff should be shown, and I just feel like people should be recognized for their art. Like this is some skill and some time and good stuff. And as you say, like these are not a one-to-one creation of existing versions of the characters. There's also like their own unique take on stuff, given the materials they have on hand. So man,
and I love that. I wish Mafex, honestly, like I love that Mafex goes hardcore comic. I wish they'd let their imaginations fly a little bit, Like I love the NECA Universal Monsters Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line because it's a total imagination mashup.
Yep. I agree. It's amazing what they were able to pull off with that. Anyway, just really cool stuff. And again, like these are folks that are out there. Shout out, like
they've even got a Bastion in there.
Yep.
Wow.
You got a cool Bastion. That's a great looking head, probably printed. You got Colossus, Magneto, Juggernaut. Who's this again in the back? Help me out. That's later. Is that a version of Nimrod?
That's think like
another version of him.
Because they did the white and pink version in Marvel Legends, and so my assumption would be that's just a different version.
But back in the day, Nimrod was like almost like you said, white and pink, but like a big crystal looking kind of blocky kind of thing, right? Okay. So there's this more teched out version.
Yeah.
Got Onslaught. Man, that's so cool. Phoenix, Cyclops. Just fun. Yeah.
Anyway. Sinister looks really good too.
Yeah, see that Phoenix 5 Cyclops. Really cool stuff. I was laughing earlier. Well, first off, Jay Solo Arts, what's up, man? And he's saying that for the Warhammer, that that there's a lot of kit bash pieces from Warhammer terrain kit, so it's super accurate to, and that's even better. And if that guy is married, he's like, I hope she has a lot of sisters. Oh man. I always thought that Apocalypse and Juggernaut would both be bigger. Yeah, like maybe like the Deadpool 2 kind of size. Yeah, I've always felt like Kane Marco should be like really big and bulky. Anyway,
you almost got to go like that Mondo. Have you seen the Mondo Rotocast?
God, I love that Mondo one. The art style on it.
Yeah.
That was, what's his name? But he's the same guy who did their man thing, which is gorgeous. That's one that I passed on stupidly, and I regret it so much. I wish I'd done that man thing Mondo. Man, we are all over the place. My brain is on tangent time. Okay. let's jam a little. Customs.
No worries, man. That one was my fault. We're good.
No. Mythic Legions. I know you don't have any Mythic Legions, is that right? Like that's something that you just, I remember from you talking
No,
about.
and it's only because of the elbows and the knees. Like I would totally jump in if they had, and I don't even mind the knees so much, but if they started adding double elbows, I definitely, because I love skeleton figures.
I totally hear you on that and understand. That it's just its own, decidedly a little more limited than some of our current options,
right?
In terms of articulation. This was based on so about a month ago now, they released a relatively cheap, less than $30 skeleton Legion builder that's based on like this new skeleton buck that's going to be coming out in an upcoming wave. So people went to town grabbing them, and this is Alejandro Soria or Skella Soria on Instagram. He does great Legions customs, like, buys a bunch of heads and paints them like impeccably. But he went to town on just adding custom heads. These are all custom third party resin printed heads that he's painted, and it's just perfect for this body. And I just wanted to share some of it because his work is great. This was literally just 2 days ago. He posted this one. The painting is just superb.
That's amazing.
I love this stuff. And,
that one's awesome.
Yeah, right? Lost the jaw, eyeballs still there. It's great work. Like, this stuff is so cool and again, because of, technology, these things can be made en masse, and people can grab them, paint them, and I'm excited I'm going to Legions Con this year in November, and I'm really excited to see this kind of stuff on display and just, with other folks who are just super geeky about this line.
That's cool. I don't know what it is. Something about the skull and the beard cracks me up. That's good stuff.
It's a little weird, right? But like, I remember like Metallica used to have this artist Pusshead do a lot of like merchant stuff for them, and that was a thing in some certain art of like skeletons with hair and like beards. Like, it was weird because where's that growing out of? But whatever. I think it's cool, man. And these skeletons are totally like, I don't know. Do you ever grow up on the old Ray Harryhausen films?
No.
Okay. Like, Clash of the Titans is one of the more famous ones that he's known, but he did like Sinbad and these things that would play on like Saturday and Sundays on local network, these old movies from like the 50s and 60s and stop motion films. And the skeleton warrior was like a staple. Anyway,
man, I love this one too.
Yeah, sadly, Clash of the Titans was his final film, and one of the bigger ones, 80s. Here you go. Love a bearded skull would make a great skeleton biker. Totally.
That's true.
You gotta get the vest too, that like it's super loose and hangs off. All right, let's shift gears. Let's get back to Marvel. Let's talk toy photography. I know you are a toy photographer yourself. As I started saying earlier, you've provided like a great resource for anyone interested in toy photography. let's take a look at a couple of toy photographers and then look at your work. Mr. Lee, I know it's
Mr. Lee is ridiculous.
Yes. So Mr. Lee kind of captured this classic matchup, right? It happened multiple times, but one of the Wolverine's first appearances was in a battle with the Hulk and Wendigo. And there's, famously Hulk won something, 151 maybe, and I only remember that because it came up, I think, last week. But so here's the shout out. So this thing, if I'm remembering, maybe I'm wrong. This might not be the head. At first, I thought it was the Deadpool. Do you see the popcorn bucket of the Wolverine with a big old mouth?
Yeah.
And now that I zoom in on this, I was like, oh wait, this isn't it. I don't think. But at first I thought that's what he was using, but maybe not. But it is like a very exaggerated mouth.
Oh yeah.
And I love it because artists would totally do that back then. McFarlane drew a Hulk versus Wolverine back in the day with typical McFarlane exaggerated features and stuff, and it was really cool. And shout out to Mr. Lee.
I mean, they used to draw, a lot of people would draw Wolverine, so he looked absolutely feral.
Yep.
And that's before he got the whole bandana minus the nose look.
That's right. There you go. Incredible Hulk 181, Sci-Fi George. You get the Marvel No Prize for today. And so I also love Mr. Lee's comic book signature. But he took them through. This is my favorite Hulk too. I've got this Hulk, although this has definitely been painted.
Is that the Select Hulk?
No, it's a Marvel Legends anniversary.
Hulk.
Okay. But it looks like it's got a lot more paint on it that didn't come standard. It has a waist that you'll hate.
The reason I'm shocked actually, because I probably had this Hulk. I had a lot of Legends, but what turned me into an action figure snob, by the way, you can get this because it's been reissued, is the Mafex, the Hush Batman. I got that and I'm like, wait, this versus those, this versus, that kind of thing.
That Hush Batman, I think, would you make 3-4 different videos using him and how to pose him and everything? I could tell you loved him.
Oh yeah.
They really captured that Jim Lee really well.
I love, and what he's doing right now that is insane is the shadow down there. He wasn't doing so much of that a while back, but it looks so good.
So if we look at this sequential art, it's really cool. Man. Shout out Mr. Lee, definitely toy photo celeb. This is Toys and Photography, who I'm not super familiar. Davey Cornea. I don't know if you're familiar with their work.
I am familiar with their work. I didn't look too deeply into, they come across my feed. I like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, totally. And so I also love about the toy photo community is the collaboration kind of I love that more and more there's these conventions. Obviously this has been going on for a while, but I love that. It's hey, let's all do a thing and let's kind of try and get some attention that way. And we can bounce ideas off of each other and see our different takes on the same toys. It's cool stuff, man. But this is the Blade Master Wing by Maestro Union. I just love the winter of it all.
I haven't seen the white version yet.
Yeah. I couldn't justify getting one after having the original, all the collab pieces. Yeah, the original, but it's great looking, especially in that wintry, real stark, the grays of his outfit and everything. I don't know. What do you think of when you see, as a photographer yourself, when you're looking at other people's photos? Is it, I don't know, are you at the point where you're can't you kind of break it down technically, or do you just still kind of go oh, that's cool?
Sometimes, it just depends. This one, I can look at it and say, okay, we either, with the snowflakes, either he was pouring some flour down or something and taking really fast photos. My gut is more that maybe that was post. And I love post work. I have nothing against Photoshop, obviously. But I'll look at it, and a lot of this stuff I'll look at, he did dull really well here. I don't do dull so well, as far as grays and that kind of thing. One of my big things is I really like a lot of color, but I'll try to do something like that, and it's difficult for me.
Yeah.
But I'll check out, I'll look and say, I wonder if that's a monitor, or are those some picked up trees that he grabbed, that kind of thing. So I'll do that from time to time. But overall, I look at this and I'm just going, whatever they did, it was put together incredibly well.
It is. And you mentioned that sort of like the lack of color. That's what I appreciate about it too, because it gives that winter vibe, right? Everything, the atmosphere is really hazy because of the snow, and everything comes off just a little bit desaturated, even more so than normal.
Yep.
We've got some corrections. Thank you for no some. So E is saying that come on. This is the Select Hulk, and so maybe. I guess I was wrong. And if that's the case, I didn't look closely at, so is this Hulk, like, are the Diamond Selects this posable?
Yeah, the Select Hulk, I think, is, from what I understand, the same people did the Select Hulk that did the Marvel Legends Hulk. Okay. And it's basically got the same articulation. They just upscaled it.
Was that Gentle Giant Studios? Anyway.
I don't remember who it was that did it.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for that. Breaking it down. Oh, it's Blake. Sorry, it's Blake Tarpley. What's going on, man? Thank you so much. Excelsior for the no prize.
Yes.
And I love this star. I'm just gonna bring it up because it's a deep geek kind of thing. It reminds me of my friend Marco, who has look at this, I love it, who is famous for we have this joke because I remember one time he's like, the Hulk wouldn't do that in real life, and we both had this pause, like, oh right. we've gone deep down the rabbit hole. This is another great shot. Thanks to No Chewing and Yimbo and Toy Father. They featured this as one of the ones that they were I don't know if it's a finalist or a winner, but I love it. This is a cool shot by DEF CON's Dungeons of Toys. I don't actually know how it's done, because do you know, did they make these ones, or is this a Photoshop shrinking down?
That would be a phenomenal Photoshop if they Photoshopped it. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can see, man, that's a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's because it's the scaling, right? Once you zoom in on, you can see the NECA, like you can see the paintbrush, right? On that NECA Dino baby.
And they grounded, look at the feet. That's usually where you can see.
Yeah, it looks Photoshopped.
Yeah.
I zoom in, it's Photoshopped.
There was so when I went to college, because I've always been super practical, I went to art school. Okay. And what happened was a lot of what they,
well, yes, I at UCSB I studied both art and social science, so I doubled.
Nice.
But yeah,
so you probably had this as well. One of the things that they really drove home was grounding, like making sure that what you were drawing, the ground, like it just blended seamlessly.
And the perspective is right. If I'm looking at this, generally speaking, it's believable.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we had to zoom in to see it.
Hey, let me ask you this. I was just talking to my kids about photography. We were watching a show and they built a dark room. Were you a dark room guy back in the day?
My folks had a dark room, but I was too young. I didn't have a dark room or anything.
No, only because I did that with Trevor. Trevor at 16 was on here. And I did this and agitating the canister, and he's like, right away, he understood what I was like. Oh, anyway, I think this is really cool, and I love that people are getting real creative with the tools, right? Of just like, I've got two different toys, I want to tell the story, and generally, is there like, how open are people to like using Photoshop in the toy?
I know that generally when I see somebody like that's hardcore on ACBA seems to want to go more just straight out of the camera, which is cool. I have no problems with that. A lot of people, though, I will post, like what I was telling you earlier, one of those questions, people love playing with Photoshop. They love doing it all. So I don't think there's really any reason to worry about whether you do or don't. It's just what the final thing of the image is, And I don't see people, at least in my thread, sitting there saying, oh, that's too much Photoshop, or this is bad, or that's bad. No, people just want to make cool pictures.
Yep.
And that's what I tend to
I
see.
appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Yeah, and I think it's really cool, right? These are both NECA toys, one shrunk down. I think it's a really funny situation, tells a story. I dig it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
These are that's that same skeleton. And also these are basically like the figures of the moment, if you will, for Mythic Legions, because this was a brand new knight, the Valiant Knight, that comes on a new sort of buck that has cuts so that it is more posable than most than previous Mythic Legions figures. And so it's like kind of like a sign of things to come, that they're working on improving the articulation. This guy can, do the dual wielding, can, because there's enough of a cut, you can kind of see it there. And then of course the new skeleton. But I just love that is it Articulated Times? Steve Menk. Oops. So this is the collaboration, but you can kind of see, like, you can tell he's like highlighting these two key figures of the moment in battle. I think it's just a cool dramatic shot with what do you call it? The Dutch angle.
Little worm's eye, cool. Not really worm's eye. Yeah, you're right.
But lower, you're right, lower. And yeah, this is like, if this were a film, like I could see them, trying to get that sort of like that realistic camera action movement and shaking things around. But
that's one of the big deals with diagonals too. Is just checking that, like it has more action going into it just because they did that.
Totally. And the lighting, like framing that skeleton in that window with that bright sun in the back. It's kind of cool. It's like, I love to see people playing with this stuff.
Yeah.
I just hope someday people will start recognizing this as a thing, as a medium. It's beautiful. Check this out. Continuing again with these two figures locked in battle. Steve is obviously having a blast with these figures. Clearly playing with light.
And I love it when people play like that. That just looks so good.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, the Dead, I think, took this one. So good job, Steve Mank. Thank you for that. And then I think this was the last of the photos that. This again, just the variety of like what I like to look at in terms of. I love fun stuff. I love stuff that tells a story. I love stuff that makes me go, huh? Okay, like what's the rest? What else is going on here?
Right.
So taking a Gomez, who I think he's called, I think he renamed Oscar, I want to say, in this little wood shop. Is this a thing? Have you seen this? Is this like a wood shop thing that's available?
I have not seen a wood shop dio. I don't even know. So you can get on Amazon and you can look up, like, say, 112 dollhouse accessories.
Right.
And you might be able to find a bunch of that stuff. I know I've got some tools, like in the back on the left there. I think I've got those too. Amazing. But yeah, like you can build all kinds of stuff just based on going to Amazon, going to Etsy, going to eBay. So it's possible. Now, what's crazy here to me is just the detail of the sawdust.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of people wouldn't have thought to do that,
Yep.
I'm probably one of them.
It sells it, man. It totally sells it. And, and it's even got a couple pieces on the figure, but just like, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just thought that was really cool. And this is Sequential Plastic, who does, like, literally here, I'll click out, tell stories. Like it's like, will actually, as one should, if you've got this set up, why the
use this setup?
Yeah, why the one photo? Tell a story. I love it, man. Look at that. Beautiful, like finishing his work, and
almost looks like he's building trees for a dio in that last one.
Man, yeah. So this is a whole other level of just like, that's that. Even though I kind of jokingly said, if you've got it, take a bunch of pictures of it, but that's no small feat. It's not like, oh, let me just snap something. No, it's a lot more work.
Right.
So, and he hits up all sorts of different figures. But toy photography, as I said, friend, and this is sort of the part of the section, part of the show where we talk, that's what's up, because let's talk about what you've got going on, because you're no stranger to toy photography. You do work. You're the proprietor of Toypixx, right?
Yep.
This is some of your stuff, man. It's beautiful, but can you tell me a little bit about like how you started getting into the toy photography thing, and when did you say, "Oh, I want to create a channel and create resources to support others"?
You know what? Honestly, what did my first video, maybe 2018, 2019, and it was the dumbest thing. I was calling it because of like Alex Ross's happy trees that he talked about and
Oh yeah,
everything.
yeah.
My first video, I called it like Happy Guns or whatever, and it was probably the Mafex Batman that I was messing with. So maybe 2020 or
Okay.
something, and just started playing with it and thought, let's turn this into something. Let's just have some fun. And so it's stuff that I just know how to do because of I like a lot of us, I was way into comics. I was trying to make a career in comics and all that. And then I found out, hey, these guys live in New York at the time. You know,
Uh-huh.
you can live anywhere now, but at the time, these
Yeah.
guys live in New York. They make $100 a day for 16 hours worth of work. I'm
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm good.
You found out the reality, like many of us did.
Right. So I'm like, okay, let's back out. But I never lost my love of the characters. So it was, let's combine what I know from art school, let's combine what I
Mhm.
know from photography, and just put it all together and see if other people are into it and see what I can do to help out. I can't tell you exactly when I decided or what the impetus was even
Okay.
to get me to do it, but it just seemed like something fun. And it's one of those things, you know, like a lot of us have that story of we were way into this as kids and then we kind of got out of it and
Yeah.
then we came back to it.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this just going, man, these things have always been there for me. So let's
Mhm.
just have some fun for them, you know, or have some fun with them. And photography is a lot faster than sitting down with a pencil
True. True.
and trying to make this stuff happen.
Yeah,
So
it's great, man. I see this and like especially that classic one, my brain goes to like the what is it? Tony Stark. Hey, you know, he's coolest cat with a heart of steel.
well, I appreciate
Or
it, man.
no,
Thank
what
you.
is it? Cool exec. Cool exec. But yeah, no, this is great. And then like so I don't know. I just and this is a Mafex, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this setup, like, is that because I know you do put out like backgrounds and stuff for people to use, and we'll get to that in a second. Is this a screen that I'm looking at? And then,
No, actually, so you know High School Creations, I'm
oh,
sure.
yeah.
This was a dio that I've had from him probably for like 3 or 4 years at this point.
Okay.
And then what I know a lot of people are totally against AI art and all that. So really, I don't do like the backgrounds, a lot of them are AI.
Yep.
The way the smoke was made was using Midjourney, and because of my Photoshop knowledge, I will say Midjourney create a smoke plume against a black background.
I'm clearly ignorant. So now you're telling me I'm a bad nerd here. Midjourney, is that like an AI prompt?
It's an AI imaging
Okay.
platform.
Okay.
So I will tell it, you know, make whatever against a black background, because I know with a black background, if you put it in your
Uh-huh.
Photoshop file, you can set it to screen, and now
Right.
you've got all this stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So you take the layer and you set the layer to screen and it'll block
Yep.
out that. That's great. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's probably where I'm seeing some of the dots going on. I wasn't sure, like, oh, how did the dots end up in there? So
Yep.
that's not practical smoke. That's computer generated smoke
No,
on
and I've had
Fiverr.
a hard time with, and I brought this up in the last live stream with Toypixx. We were talking about what makes a great toy photo and all that, and
Mhm.
people were telling me what they use and everything else. I have a hard time with cotton getting the exact cotton look that I want.
Okay.
And
You
so
mean
I
using
thought, you
cotton for
know
smoke?
what? Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I would sit there and say, you know what I'm going to do instead
Yeah.
is create a smoke plume, and let's see what I can do with that.
Yeah, it's great. And you've got some of it in the foreground. You've got some of it in the background with his arm kind of sticking out.
Mhm.
That's cool.
I appreciate it.
Ah, Autobots roll out. So, yeah. So you span beyond the Marvel thing, and you've got the Transformers. There's a couple of things going on here. I'm assuming digitally with the eyes and
Actually,
stuff.
the eyes and everything else was just
In camera
color correction.
Beautiful. And so is this a practical background?
It is. It's the Extreme Sets Asylum.
Wow. So do you just have like, you have toys? That's the thing that trips me out. And Trevor talks a lot about that. It's like you've got the toys, and then you've also got like basically like stage flats, but smaller, like a collection of backgrounds and stuff too. That's amazing.
Yeah, I wish that's the one thing. I mean, I'm not kidding. I want to get into dios next. I need to start. There needs to be better backgrounds for these things than what I've currently got, you know, or at least more variety. Like, I love the backgrounds I have, but you know, anybody that's, I mean, I'm sure you're creative. All these people that we've been looking at are creative. You get to this point of, all right, I got to start adding more. There's got to be more I can throw in here, you know.
Hey, real quick, we got a Toypixx celebrity, man. I love hanging out with this guy in your chats.
Mr. Madsen.
Yeah, through a Punk with Toys, and then I see him over there. I was like, oh, hey, Matthew's here too. And we're always sort of chatting in there. Yeah, man. This is great. I love this. What is this figure? How big is this figure?
It's about it's almost exactly 7 inches tall. It's the 30 MDLX Optimus Prime.
Okay. Yeah, because it looks great, and in terms of like the size and the details that you can see, it's perfect. That's really cool.
And that's one of the things I love about this line is it's not. I know a lot of people really like, let's look at the G1 cartoon and let's upscale the G1 cartoon. I never really liked the cartoon looks. What I like about this is kind of their own take on a classic design.
I'm with you on that. I love the cartoon too, but like if I was going to have it on my shelf, I haven't been into like a whole lot of cartoon toys. That,
same here.
My only actual Transformer. Wait, this is not true. I have a boxed Optimus Prime Super 7 that is signed by the voice of
Mr. Cullen.
Yep. Peter Cullen.
Very nice. That's awesome.
And that's just like a thing that I have because because we were going in and he was going to be there, so I was like, let me get this. And then I have the Megatron what is it called? Yellow Park, which I love. One of my favorite. Like easily like it was might have been like number 3 of last year because I just love that figure. And it reminds me of this, where it's not quite G1 cartoon. It's like a mix of that looks to, I think it's beautifully dialed in. Let me ask you, camera wise. I'm sorry,
the Yellow Park stuff. That's one of those other lines where I'm like, I want to buy one, but you know.
Yeah. Well, you've got great ones. Like it sounds like this 7 inches. It's this is that you don't really need it if you've got this. But curious, what are you shooting with?
I'm using dude, I've got so I am as old school as I can possibly be with this stuff. It is a Canon EOS 20D, which was a camera from, I believe it was about 2005.
Okay.
Like I have to get on eBay and say, okay, time to get one of those giant smart discs or whatever, so that I can replace the one that I had, that sort of thing. But cameras, you've got good lenses for all cameras. The only thing that's really gone super crazy for me that I can see being really valuable in recent cameras is on mine. It's got a tiny screen on the back that you can't really see like you can't frame the picture looking at the tiny screen. You still have to use the lens, all that stuff. Now you can see the huge picture on the back as you're framing it. So that's insanely practical. Right. And the raw images on the newer cameras are much larger. So those are things that I look at and say, I'm going to need to upgrade at some point,
Yeah. Matthew's saying he met Frank Welker and Don Bluth this spring, which is awesome. When I went to, he was here in Sacramento, I went with a buddy, lifelong Transformers fan. I was like, well, he's going to wait in that line. I'll wait with him. Got that signed, and it was both Peter Cullen and Frank Welker were signing at the same time, but couldn't pay for both of them. But we did the one, and the Yellow Park ones are super nice. Don Bluth,
Don Bluth, that is, I haven't heard that
animation
name.
royalty,
This stuff
man.
was so good.
Yep. So this is great. So I was asking about the camera because of the depth of field. How you got that sort of arm, like that stuff is. Wow.
That's more going to be about the lenses and all that stuff. So the lens I used on this one, it's it's great. One of the best lenses you can use for action figure photography, at least I found, is the one that comes with all the cameras. It's the 18 to 55 millimeter.
Yep.
You know,
very cool. And then I couldn't, just related, but I love that this was just it sounded like the way you described it was like a quick shot. You just throw it up, and I'm assuming that's the light in the back, right? The LED matrix, and it's still really great looking. Is that that flare in the camera?
That one actually I had to create. I wanted something. I'm like,
it looks great.
Something extra. I need something extra here.
Good eye. No, that's smart. Yeah. I love that. It's cool, man. This is great stuff, and just wanted to give people a sense of like the work that you do, and it's varied too, right? You've got this stuff that's like a little like less with the lighting and dramatic lighting. He's kind of fully lit almost in this. What is this? What Boba Fett is this?
Take a guess. It's a Mafex.
Oh,
it's a Mafex Empire Strikes Back. And actually, if you really, because you're a Star Wars guy, these are probably the cheapest Mafex stuff you're going to be able to find because it's pretty old.
I forgot to mention this. You know what actually helps me not get Mafex? Is
what's that? Oh, that's right. You're more of a 1/10 guy.
Yeah, if you look at my stuff, it's big. So the closest I get to Star Wars, which is fun because like you, I like when I love the classic stuff, but I love when they play with things and kind of get creative. I'm getting those Bandai what do you call the Meisho movie realization where they kind of put in the samurai.
Those are sweet.
Like that. Yeah, that's how I do Star Wars.
I was so tempted by that Mando and Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Like the lone wolf and cub look. I'm like, oh, that looks so good.
The paint on this is really cool. So, and then you're adding in the blast effects.
Right. I added in that. I added in a little like the haze that was on the bottom. One of the things that I'm nervous about, and I talked about this some when it comes to like say atmosphere aerosol, for instance, is I don't know what the long-term impact on the plastics is.
On the toy, yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I do that more. One of the guys sent me Tragic Hero that shows up in my live stream from time to time. He sent me a link to a fog machine that just uses water. Okay. So I'm thinking this might be something I need to check out.
That's what I was wondering too. I was just going to ask you that when people are using, like, I know a lot of folks are using that Ulanzi fog. Is that some kind of solution that they're using in those things?
I can't remember. Somebody was telling me what I know that I looked into them and there was some kind of chemical inside it. And somebody told me even what the chemical was in most of them in the last live stream. I don't remember what it is, but that's enough where I'm kind of like, do I really want to, do I want to gamble?
Yeah, that's a good call. So Thanos is thinking about it. And I think what Dave's bringing up is a really good thing to consider. Yeah, because Thanos, you don't know what it's going to do to that silicone. Oh, anyway, sorry. That'll make sense if you know Thanos's work. Okay. But the other thing you do is you provide resources for photographers. So for folks who on your Patreon, you do a lot of these things where you'll provide free like stuff to use in their photos and stuff. You're using what was it called again?
Midjourney.
You're using that for this stuff.
Right. So I'll get on there and I'll say and it takes a little bit. Obviously, AI is not perfect yet. So you keep having to ask it different ways and all that stuff, prompt it differently. But yeah,
so I'm curious, like, what would be the prompt for something? I don't know if if it's a trade secret or something. But I'm curious,
go ahead.
To what extent do you tell it like backlit? Like, do you tell it that kind of stuff too?
Once in a while, most of the time, what I can do. So you'll get in Midjourney, it's an imagine : prompt. So that's just, it's just how you start the command basically. Okay. And you tell it like for this one, I think I said, make me a base on the moon. Like, I don't think it was that complicated. Okay. But once in a while, I have some where you're right. Like, I will have to say, okay, do this, make sure it's backlit here, Make sure we're against like what I was talking about with the plume, make sure it's against a pure black background. Or with this, make sure you see the earth off in the distance. And then you span it, like you can click, okay, this is the one. Because when it points out, when it comes up with whatever the command is, it comes out with 4 options. Yeah. And so you pick the option you want, and then you can make it larger, smaller. You can tell it to, okay, move to the left. Let's see what else is on the left side. You know, move to the right. You can upscale it, all that stuff.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say move to the left, move to the right, you mean like the camera cropping kind of?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. It's kind of like you're framing
so it speaks that language.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so, do you know, because I wasn't sure if you were like, I want a hallway, you know, none of that necessarily. You just based on the moon.
Yeah, you can. Well, I mean, this one's on the moon, but yeah, I think that was pretty much. I could probably look up the prompt. Honestly, maybe that's something I should just be providing with these.
No, but it's cool. It's interesting. I know, obviously, the AI conversation is incredibly complicated, especially in the reality of, like, you know, what people get paid for their work, copyright, intellectual property, in the context of like that, where that's a reality on our art. I understand.
Well, and it's a tough thing, because I look at it. I've been a guy that's owned my own businesses and all that stuff in the past as well. So I look at it from an art and a business practicality point of view, right? Yeah. Like if you're somebody that really knows your marketing and you have art that you can blast out there and get a huge amount of people that love it and load up on it, absolutely stay away from AI. But if you're one of those people that's really struggling to get your art seen, and you want to do, say you decide, you know what, I just need to be a graphic designer with a company or something. Well, if you're a graphic designer with a company, the client wants it fast. The boss wants it fast. So the practicality aspect is, let's learn this stuff, because then you've got other people that, you know, you learn this stuff, but then you also know, if you're really great at graphic design, how to tweak it, how to make it a little better. Sure. It's not going to be just the secretary sitting there saying, hey, the boss wants this real quick, make me an image. Right. So the practicality is always going to be speed, and things are going to get faster as we go on because of AI.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing, but sadly, it is the reality. I know. Have you heard of Gary Vaynerchuk?
No.
He's a big time digital marketing kind of guy. And he has pointed out, in the battle of us versus technology, technology wins 100% of the time. So I know there's a lot of people that want to fight the AI, but I'm like, you know what? The faster you can embrace it and learn how to use it for your own work, the better you're going to be in the future.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I totally am with you, because I've got the art side in my head too. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, when Trevor was here, we started going into it, and then he was saying, yeah, you know, we should get people together to have a conversation around AI, and we haven't followed up. I need to follow up with them, because I think it's definitely an important issue for creatives in general, but I think more and more it's going to be, if you're even into toy collecting, it's going to be a thing. Here we are using this for toy photography. Right. I think it'd be a healthy thing to kind of like wrap our heads around. But I dig this, and I know that it becomes a piece in a larger product, right? For toy photographs. And I also see the other side of folks like, yes, but in order to create that piece, are they using assets that are seeding, you know, to this
well, and that's something. Yeah, Midjourney's actually been named in that one of the lawsuits, at least one of them, where they've been saying, because what people can do now, and I'm always sketchy about that, but somebody can get on there and say, I want to make this in the style of Frank Frazetta, for instance, which means that they've been looking at Frank Frazetta art.
Of course.
And if it comes out that way, then guess what? Midjourney maybe took that without permission.
Sure.
And so that's where you got to be really careful,
or even
if you're one of these AI companies.
Yeah, I mean, even with this, the question is like, where are they getting this reference from? You know, it is from somewhere. But anyway, that it's fascinating. Maybe if Trevor gets, I would love to come back and have that conversation with him. But this stuff is cool. It's real practical. As I said, like Dave is providing these on your Patreon. Like if you're a photographer, toy photographer, you understand the value and importance of having things like this and sources of stuff like this. So I totally get it. This is great, right? This is here for your maybe a Gotham PD thing, or
Right.
something, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
real cool, or even like a cyberpunk thing potentially. And then you've got stuff like this. Were these also AI
Yep.
generated? Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can come up with basically anytime you see something with a black background like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was me saying, hey, I need something against a black background so somebody can throw it in their Photoshop file and hit screen.
Interesting.
And so you've got
Yeah.
basically your downtown. I mean, the backgrounds were me, like we talked about earlier, just thinking, man, I've only got 3 things I can use. I want more. So
Right.
the backgrounds were me going, how do I make more backgrounds for myself?
Sure.
So then I end up sharing this stuff. And this stuff is because, I don't have a bunch of bricks lying around that I can blow up and all that.
Right. I'm curious, how often are you posting these to your Patreon, like something like this?
I've gotten to the point I was doing really well for a while, and then I sucked for a while, and now I'm back to doing really well. So I'm getting about 5 times a week.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, so you've probably got if people sign up, there's a back catalog where they can access all this stuff to use.
Yeah, if
Have you been seeing people using it?
Yeah, actually, one of the people
Awesome.
that was commenting on the X, they posted one of the pictures on one of the threads I put up. And I said,
Yeah.
man, I really love the way you kicked up the sand on there. And he goes, thanks. It was the sand you created. And I didn't recognize it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are using the stuff. And if anybody wants to, it's totally free. What you do, you look up the Toypixx Patreon, go to the first few posts, and there'll be backgrounds, there'll be effects, all that stuff. And you click on the link and it takes you to all of them. So
Okay.
you could scroll through all of Patreon and just see what you think looks cool, or you could just click those links and look at all of it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we've got here. Just let's go there. Yeah, so here's the Toypixx toy photography. You join for free. And can you say that again so I can visually show that?
Go to, let's see. Go to, I think, collections. Try that. Okay, there you go. So now I was saying you could go to the very bottom of the Patreon of the Toypixx homepage, but you can also go to collections here and click on whatever.
Got it. That's a great resource. That's really, really cool. And I think at the end of the day, like, AI conversation aside, and I know it's probably some people are like, you can't throw that aside, but for now, let's put a pause on that. But AI conversation aside, like the notion of like making this kind of stuff available for folks because there's a particular end user that like, oh, they've got toys and they're taking photos. I think it's really interesting. I think it's really interesting and really cool. But yes, it's the market that's getting in the way. But anyway, whatever. That's a whole other conversation. I think it's cool.
I mean, you're right though. I mean, it's tough as somebody that's artistic myself. If I didn't straddle the art and the business side, if I were it's amazing actually. I see like artists being as progressive thinking as they are, they're the ones that really hold back when new stuff comes up. I remember with Photoshop, people didn't want anything to do with that. Right. And now pretty much everybody have adopted Photoshop. Right. And I think I look at it not so much as an art thing, as much as a practicality thing.
Sure.
If you're a graphic designer, you're going to need to be faster. And this is what's going to help you get there. And if you're a good graphic designer, you'll know how to manipulate the AI properly to make it even better than somebody that's just average. So it's another meritocracy kind of thing,
Very cool stuff, man. But then of course let's talk YouTube for a second. So Photo Dave over on Toypixx at Toypixx, Toypixx, and you can see all the videos. So let's start with the live streams. It's Monday, Thursday.
Yep, Monday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's why, like I said, school gets out at 3:50. Usually I'm packing up, sometimes staying and grading. So I'll pop it on and I can chat in, and I probably don't get as much grading done as a result. But it's cool. Get to hang out with Matthew and other folks. Get to hang out with Dave Matthews? No, Dave and Matthew, and talk toys and, you know, kind of run through the news stuff. And then, you know, we do a good job of sending you on tangents.
That's okay. I'm good with it.
And they're all sort of like topical too, right? Like, you know, there's always, again, on tangent, you'll say, we're talking about this, and then we're not. But about like an hour and a half or so, generally. No, something.
Yeah, usually that's what it's been lately.
Yeah. So definitely go check it out. I run through the news all the time, run through BBTS stuff and kind of like what's available. And then, you know, people like me will go like, hey, put around. Hey, what Kickstarter? And then we'll talk about that stuff. And then this is the stuff, just to highlight that, like, there's a bunch of great resources, but the photography tutorials, man, I love this stuff. And then, you know, sending this to other folks who are like, hey, what about this? I was like, oh, check this out. In terms of like everything, like using an iPhone, or like, and you've gone through a bunch, posing, which I love. I love when people take the time to talk about like, how do you pose? And
something I want to bring up real quick, because I didn't think about this the other night. We were talking about what people do for their photos, and somebody asked about smartphone stuff. I talked about setting your iPhone, for instance, on portrait mode, which lets you mess with a whole lot of stuff. Like you can mess with the aperture, for instance. So change where your focus is, which is really cool. Somebody else brought up, and I didn't even think to say it. I knew it, but all you do, like you do this and you get kind of a straight on shot of a figure, for instance, right? But you flip it upside down and now you get more of a worm's eye view where the figure looks really imposing and all that stuff. So anybody watching this right now, that's something you could do right now to set it up on your figure, and it's rad.
Yep. That's 100%. You're right. And so that's the thing. The tools, at the end of the day, AI is a tool. At the end of the day, digital camera is a tool, as someone just pointed out, right? When digital cameras came out, you know, Serato and DJing, right? The idea of like digitally mixing in MP3s versus actual analog vinyl. I remember that was a conversation, and you know, it's true.
Right.
There's a little bit more unique pieces to it with AI in terms of like where stuff is being seeded and all that. Whole other conversation. But at the end of the day, like when someone like yourself is like, hey, let's talk about using these tools and let me provide like some resources. I think it's great. And I think that's the beauty of at least where the internet's gone, and this hobby in particular. It's like, we have so much access to information. We got folks like yourself who are playing with this stuff, sharing it. And then inevitably the community that pops up around and kind of chats and is like, well, what about this? As you said, someone just showed you about the camera. It's cool stuff.
I appreciate everybody coming in and talking about that stuff. There's, like I said, man, my imagination, I feel like there just needs, I got to hone it somehow, because people will come in and say, what about trying this? What about trying that? And I'm just going, holy crap, how have I not thought of that, you know?
Yep. And of course, as you've seen today, Dave likes to talk toys. And so there's a bunch of like cool topical kind of things. Like your rules. I thought that was a fun one, just because like the rules thing is so hard. We say we have rules and limits, and then, you know, things like this happens. Oh, I missed out on this. Now I'm regretting it. Or I got this and I regret it.
Right.
Cool stuff. And you've got like a huge back catalog of content, super prolific, and it's great, man. And I appreciate you for coming through today on this channel, man, because it's you know, I'm relatively new. I'm still trying to figure it out, but the best part of this whole thing has been meeting new people, you know, and like comparing notes and just sort of seeing how different people approach toys. Like, you know, all your articulations concerns, and like, that's cool. That's fascinating to me. And, you know, here I am with big buff giant dudes and monkeys, and you're like, oh, I can't even rep, you know, that's
dang it, Brick, stop making me spend money.
Nah, it's great. So I really appreciate you coming through, and thank you for holding it down while I disappeared because of the internet. That was a fun
problem. But luckily, I do my own live stream. So
yeah, Pro, like you got it. I learned from you every Mondays and Thursdays, folks, over on Toypixx. Check that out. Is there anything else that you want folks to know about?
All that stuff. I think I'm having a lot of fun on X, Twitter, whatever you're calling it. Every Monday through Friday, I'm posting a video or a photo that's kind of a prompt that's basically saying, "Hey, show me what you got."
Okay.
Like I'm gonna have here's top secret. Mondays, tomorrow's is your Bat Family action figures. Go. So people are gonna just post a bunch of Batman stuff, and it's gonna be sweet.
That's cool. That's
cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's just been fun seeing what all everybody else does.
I have not been on X, as it's now called, in a very long time, and I was never a big Twitter person, so I'm quickly trying. So you're at Toypixx, for folks to know, and here it is. So check that out here. I'll follow, even though like I'm not even really on this. But
that's okay. You just mess with platforms and you say, okay, what one's going to take? And X is taken. Anything
else that you want folks to know that we haven't mentioned yet?
I think, I think we can end it there.
Cool.
If I think of something else, I'm sure I'll put it on the internet somewhere.
Photo Dave, I appreciate you, and thank you for hanging out. And again, thank you for handling it while I was gone for a little bit, but hope it was cool just kind of talking toys, maybe talking about toys that you wouldn't otherwise look at if this dude didn't just say, "Here, talk about this, Dave." So
no, it was great, Rick. I appreciate it. That was a lot of fun. I'd be more than open to do it again.
Okay, I hope everybody else had a good time, man. We looked at a bunch of cool stuff. Here, let me put some music on and make it sound like pro. Look at that. Hey, going on. So, you can find me on brick.something at IG or here. Tell your friends, tell your folks, like, subscribe, all of those things. Appreciate all the folks who are newer to the show too that I haven't seen. What's up, E. McNeil? Appreciate that, man. So again, that thing right here will take you to the URL there, and you can kind of see all the links if there's stuff that interested you. Definitely go hit up Toypixx, and yeah, that's all we got for today. So hope everybody has a great week. Say goodbye to the folks, Dave. Woo.
Thank you, Austin. See you, everybody. Don't get too crazy unless you call me first, or maybe send me a DM.
All right, I love it. I'm going to click the end stream now. This is that